I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The city clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Brennan.
Here.
Counselor Kame.
Present.
Counselor Petropoulos.
Here.
Counselor Gilat.
Here.
Counselor Lavin.
Here.
Counselor Gameau.
Here.
Counselor Grimaldi. Counselor Whitfield. Mayor Ciceri.
Here. Okay, so welcome everyone to this meeting on February the 4th, our regular meeting of the Geneva City Council. We're first going to start with an amendment to the agenda this evening. Under new business, we're going to add to that a resolution to set a public hearing for the sale of 38 Jackson Street. And that public hearing would occur on March the 4th of 2026. All right, we're going to start with, could I have a motion to amend the agenda? Councilor Petropoulos, do I have a second? Councilor Gelati, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? And for the record, I vote aye. I didn't say that, but I did vote aye. Okay. All right, let's start with council reports. Start with Councilor Brennan to my left.
Well, I always comment about the Shade Tree Committee, and I always sing their praises, which is still true. But tonight I'm going to be brief and simply say that Tom Burrow provided his money to me yesterday, and he's broken the $20,000 mark in firewood sales, which is remarkable to me. They sold $530 worth of firewood in this last month, January. So congratulations to those folks that do that and has been doing it for years for free. The zoning board did not meet, so there's no report there. And the Historic Districts Commission did not meet, so no report there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brennan. Do you want to go, Councilor Kame?
Sure, this is my first one, so take it. It was busy. After the oath of office on January 1st, I've had many phone calls and emails with constituents. I've had 12 in-person meetings with them. I met with Peter and Tech and Erica on January 8th. I attended the mayor's press briefing here at City Hall. On the 9th, I had the ability to go down to the police station, and I attended the oath of the office for Sergeant Hall. I met with the 5th Ward Councilor Petropoulos 3 times, and we addressed quite a few things. And January 14th, I attended the strategy session. On the 15th, I met with the Assistant City Manager, Ms. Toner, and the City Clerk to discuss the Recreation Advisory Board. They'll be convening in March, and they're going to be meeting soon to fill the vacancies. In March, they'll be looking into establishing bylaws for the committee. On the 19th, for the first time in 33 years, I attended the Martin Luther King Parade since I won the poetry contest back then, and it was a terrible walking then, but it was a wonderful time walking this year. We went to St. John's Chapel, and not only was the weather good, but the speakers were all right, and the music was phenomenal. On the 20th, I attended the agenda setting meeting via Zoom. On the 21st, attended a City Hall virtual webinar provided by the Office of the New York State Comptroller on fiscal oversight for the responsibilities of the governing board. Later that day, went back to the police department and attended the oaths of office for, I don't know if it's Cadet Sterling Kalali and Aaron Smith, the Geneva Police Department. On the 28th, I took a tour of the Geneva Fire Department, followed by a tour of the Public Safety Building and the Geneva Police Department. February 2nd, I met employees in the City Hall, and we took a tour here. On February 3rd, I met with the City Manager and the 5th Ward Councilor. And this afternoon, the 4th, I attended the meeting of the LDC and was very impressed with that meeting and the group of people they had there. That's all I got.
Thank you, Counselor. Reminding you it's a part-time job.
Oh, that's what I
Thank
thought it
you
was too.
for that engagement. Much appreciated. Counselor Petropoulos?
Well, nice going there, Counselor Kane. You said more I could. Yes, snow is the big report this last month. I too went to the Martin Luther King parade, and this would have been my third time doing it. The weather was balmy compared to the last two times, but everything else was phenomenal too. Nothing much going on around town that Councilor Kane didn't say. Yeah, I met with a few constituents. I met with the city manager. We're talking about a lot of things. We're going to have a discussion later, perhaps about sidewalks. We'll get to that. The LDC did meet today, and they went through quite a bit of stuff. First thing was an audio-visual presentation from Geneva General Hospital. They've come up a long way, so anyone who hasn't been there in a while, not that you want to go there, but they're really impressive. Then there was a presentation for the Hobart William Smith bond. That's going to be, we're going to talk about that later as well. We amended, Cook Properties was working with the LDC. We amended, they amended the properties to reimburse them $4,000 for the study they're doing for the properties they're working with. Let's see. The LDC does request recognition for their contribution. It was a good presentation by Sydney from BID on Winterfest. I do believe she's in the crowd there, yeah. Winterfest again, the 6th of February through the 22nd. Basically, posters will be going up in the downtown area, and there may be a restaurant week. All right, so keep an eye out. Come on down. Try the good food. And a preliminary, and I underline preliminary, discussion about what we're going to call the Code Assistance Fund at the LDC. We'll talk about that later when we do our discussion.
Thank you, Counselor Petropoulos. Counselor Gelati?
I'm far away from you. You still steal my thunder. Every time. Geneva bid Winter Festivals 2/6 to 2/22. The 2 weeks of pop-up specials, activities for the whole family. The maps and events will be at the participating downtown businesses. Also, their annual dinner, which all council representatives are invited, is on February 12th from 5 to 7. You can pay your ticket, etc., at the office, and I think we have some in the audience, so we should be good there. Let's see what else there. I think it's there for the Geneva BID. As far as the Police Budget Review Board, they're still working on their bylaws. They'll have a full report in the March meeting, and they're changing their meeting date to Mondays to benefit myself, actually, so I can get there. So anyway, we have a good report from them in March when we get back together. And here's just an idea of the invitation for the annual dinner. It's a nice invitation. It's nice. All right. Good. I was at the Martin Luther King parade as well. It was cold. It was a hard walk with a brace on, but I endured a great crowd, great response. I thought it was really successful, and hopefully the messages have been sent loud and clear, and we can continue to grow in a positive way. And other than that, that's all I got.
Thanks, Counselor Gelati. Counselor Gummo?
This is also the first time that I've done this, so please bear with me. The Green Committee met twice in the past month. Primary topics of consideration are how to promote or increase the use of the composting facility at the transfer station, trying to figure out ways to have more people use it. Things we're considering are some social media campaigns, having volunteers at least down on Saturdays to help people understand what truly is and is not compostable so that the material is higher quality. I'm also considering having a drop-off location at the farmer's market so that if you don't want to go all the way to the transfer station and you're planning on going to the farmer's market, that's an alternative for you. Also increasing, making the signage better. It's not obvious when you go down there. When I was dropping off my Christmas tree, even specifically what goes where and what is allowed in different places. So that is their primary focus. For the planning board, which also met, they set a public hearing on February 18th for subdividing a plot that's behind the Dollar Tree on North Exchange Street. If you're interested in that, you can attend the meetings, which are the third Wednesday of every month. In terms of ordinances, I've been working with city manager and legal counsel to figure out if it's possible to pass an ordinance to make jake brakes, or the use of jake brakes, which is the very loud noise that a truck makes when it's slowing down, if you're not familiar with it. I won't make that sound because I don't know how we would transcribe it. Turns out, not allowed to do this. This is like a state authority. The state controls the legislation surrounding safety devices on moving vehicles, and so this is effectively a non-starter for us. Exploring alternatives related to the noise ordinance, but I need to work with the chief and council again to figure out if that's a plausible direction. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Gummo. Councilor Lavin?
And just for the record, for those of us who've marched in that parade for the last 10 years, that was the warmest ML King parade that we've
Really?
ever had. Oh, yeah.
So
by
cold.
far.
I
It
was so cold.
Easy to do it, but I have seeking guidance, I think, from Your Honor. On Friday, the IDA meets, and I've been in conversations with them, because the IDA ostensibly is an independent agency that does its own thing, but it's managed by the city manager, the deputy city manager, and the comptroller, and I'm the city clerk. And it's interwoven with city services, including the DPW's facilities. And in recent discussions, it's clear that both the IDA, the county IDA, and the Geneva City IDA use money that comes in through their pilots in ways that I don't think they or us would say really are economic development in the intention of those organizations. And they're both struggling with it, and I think I brought it up occasionally to them, and I'm thinking perhaps maybe inviting them to come and present on how they're operating it. There's some interesting facts about the IDA owns the GEDC, which is the former American Can thing. It's an enormous facility down there, and it carries with it a whole lot of obligations. We pay $200,000, the IDA pays $200,000 a year to a management company from Rochester to manage a facility that is losing money, and losing money in part because of the way the city reimburses it for DPW's space, which again speaks to what are we doing with this pilot money that reduces school taxes, city taxes, and then is used in ways that the public doesn't understand. I think this is ripe for county-city discussions about, in a time when economic development is becoming much more regional with the decline of the mall in Victor. The county is really looking at things, as we all are, more regionally in terms of their ability to generate sales tax and other things. So I was thinking of talking to you. I know we have these ad hoc committees, and maybe they work into that in terms of discussion of economic. I think the cities, frankly, could manage that facility for the IDA at far less expense and maybe make up for what they're not paying in rent. These are issues where our interests and theirs coincide, but they drive their own ship. They have their own attorney. It's Harris Beach, not our attorney here. So I'll meet with them on Friday. I'm now on the agenda to report back what we're doing here. And one of my questions would be, how do we want to bring them in to discuss these things as part of the refurbishing you're doing of a lot of our strategic plans and everything? So I don't want to be a bully. I don't want to be a journalist crying foul, but there are reasons for improvement here. And it's financial improvement as well at a time when money is really tough here. So we can discuss it later, but I do plan on raising that on Friday with them. How do they want to interact with us on these questions that involve our staff, our departments, and the city's taxpayers' money?
I know it's normally not a discussion period. If you yield
Oh, yeah.
to me just for a moment,
Yeah.
I think you'll get that update in the ad hoc committee for downtown and economic revitalization, which puts very squarely into the view the IDA and the other agencies for review and a discussion right along those lines. And I
Right.
yield back.
And I spent 2 years getting familiar with the place. I'll be glad to be part of that discussion too. So, thank you.
All right, that concludes the council reports. We're now going to move to public comment. We currently have just to give folks a sense of, what's that? Oh, yeah, that's okay. I do remember some of it. So just to remind the public here as we enter public comment, this is the opportunity for the public to address council. Council will not respond nor react to your public comment or to your presentation. We will, however, listen, and if there are follow-ups, they will certainly be directed and done as such. Just remind everyone you have three minutes for your public comment. Just pay attention to the little chime, and if you'd like me to, if you have about 20 seconds left, I'll try to raise the gavel just to help remind you that you have about 20 seconds left. Just remind everyone to please be respectful, please be professional, and please just state whatever the facts are, the issues are that you want to relay, and please assure that, at least as far as I'm concerned, we will listen attentively, respectfully, and to the extent we can, understand what it is you're discussing, and ideally either act or respond accordingly in time and in the right manner. So having said that, I would call Daniel Beckers first. Is Daniel here? I didn't see him. All right. Charles King. Your clock already started, Charles.
There is a noise, I think you're right.
Last month, you appointed 8 people to government positions, 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and a blank. No one interviewed the appointee to the ZBA, so council is 0 for 9 with powerful board interview opportunities this session. Among the 8 appointees were 2 members of the Geneva City Republican Committee, which holds powerful positions all across boards and staff within the city. Why does a city council that is a majority of registered Democrats, in your case 8 Democrats and 1 Republican, stack the government with Republican Party bosses? Previous council leaders have been pretty right-wing, getting uninvited from both the large colleges in the city for prioritizing 1950s social mores. This discourages thoughtful people from volunteering. Council has been largely good old boys who scaffold their masculinity on effusively praising the police and then compete with each other to see who can most grandly support the government unions and rich developers. I would suggest that this is not leading, but conceding, planting flags of militocracy and plutocracy. It's also not being adult men or Constitution-minded Americans. Be leaders in a democratic republic. Do your actual jobs. Help the police build trust without mindlessly worshiping them, and people will want to volunteer for you again. You have an individual up for appointment to the IDA this evening who is already a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would caution you from doubling up and concentrating power in too few hands. We've seen this before. The chair of the IDA serves on the planning board, doing site reviews for properties that the IDA owns or is considering for pilots. So the owner or investor in a property sits on the board reviewing its site plans. The IDA LDC have an agenda to develop, while the ZBA and Planning Board have an agenda to harmonize, determining whether land should be developed or not based on neighborhood patterns, state rules, and the charter. The neighborhood harmony boards check and balance the financial investment boards. Unsurprisingly, the member who straddles both sides never votes down a project that they've already greenlighted for financial development and never negotiates for site plan changes to get things more in line with the city's documents. The end result is that only short-term financial gain is prioritized, not social justice, not environmental sustainability, not neighborhood harmony. And we are weaker negotiators because we undercut our own system. The Ward 6 councillor gave a moving speech during your special January meeting saying that even though there are no women on council, even though the one minority member of council is not present, we're still Genevans and we still look out for one another. I wish that were true of this city's government. Look at Jackson Street or Lakeview Mental Health for recent sad reminders of how thoughtlessness, racism, classism, homophobia, ableism, majoritarianism, fear-mongering, and punching down had such loud voices in those conversations. Almost done. A responsible council and responsible staff who follow city and state rules should never have allowed a 5-story skyscraper plan in a poor 2-story neighborhood, or a 74-foot downtown apartment building with only 19 parking places to even get to the public review stage and invite that sort of QAnon-inflected chatbot shouting match. The city has been doing mostly Hail Mary passes instead of carefully shepherding projects through following its own rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Christine Hoffman?
Hi, Christine Hoffman from North Brook Street. I'm here again to clarify some facts about Loomis Woods Park,
Pull the microphone down, please. Thank you.
which is threatened by sale and demolition. If you are not a person who walks regularly in the woods, then a natural woodland might appear to be dangerous and unused. In reality, Loomis Woods serve as the neighborhood park for the 4th Ward, Castle Heights neighborhood folks who just walk over from their homes. I've been visiting Loomis Woods consistently for over 30 years. During that time, I've joined neighbors, walking there in spring, summer, fall, and less frequently in winter. Including my neighbors and North Street School parents and school children and their teachers, Loomis Woods is used just as much as other neighborhood parks are used locally by their neighbors. I never go to Richards Park or Washington Street Park or Clark Street or Needers Park. Those are pretty much local parks used by their neighborhood. To imply that Loomis Woods is underutilized because the entire city's residents are unfamiliar with it is really a false narrative. Loomis is a wonderland to young people because you never know what you might see there. You know, children chase toads in the underbrush in the spring. They might encounter a chipmunk peeping up from under a log or see an owl up in a tree or startle a fawn hiding in the thicket. Loomis is not only a park, it is a nature preserve, safe and beloved by the many children and adults who venture there at different times. I hope that we do not sell Loomis Woods. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Ray Whitfield?
You made that look real easy. How y'all doing? My name is Ray Sean Whitfield. I'm from Geneva, New York. Start off by saying I'm reaching out for solutions. I'm not complaining. One of the biggest things is I think that we face in the community is that the youth have too much idle time and not enough structured, positive options. Where there's nowhere constructive to go, trouble finds space. I think we all know that. I organize many programs, back to school giveaway, basketball tournaments, things of that nature. I recently made a boxing program at the Geneva YMCA. As we all know, there's a lot of things going on in the community, bad publicity. I think it'd be the smart move to start collaborating more, getting the youth more activities going on, and just bringing back Geneva to the love that we once had. I grew up in Geneva under Red Myers. All the legends played basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. And I think if we all just come together and not focus on the actual problem, start thinking about the solutions of it, that we can make Geneva great again in some way. That's all I wanted to say.
You did great.
I was kind of nervous.
No, you did great. The only other item we have is someone who couldn't attend reached out and wanted us to reach a statement and read his letter. So City Clerk Tillison will read it for us.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Michael Pinko, and I am a resident of Geneva. I apologize for not personally being here tonight because of the other commitments, and I would like to have my comments read to the public. Our city is facing a moment that demands clarity, responsibility, and leadership. It has been publicly reported that Councilman Ahmad Whitfield has been arrested and charged by New York State Police with criminal sale of a controlled substance and 2 counts of criminal possession of a controlled substance. These are serious charges, And while every person is entitled to due process and the presumption of innocence, that principle does not eliminate the responsibility we have to protect the integrity of our local government. A city council member cannot effectively serve while simultaneously defending against felony-level accusations of this magnitude. The demands of the legal process alone make it impossible to give full attention to constituents, policy decisions, and the daily work of governing. More importantly, these allegations strike at the heart of public trust. If proven true, they would represent conduct fundamentally incompatible with public service, especially in a community that is working hard to protect its children, support families, and address substance abuse. Even unproven, the nature of the charges seriously undermines confidence in this council and distracts from the work Geneva needs done. This is not about rushing to judgment, it is about acknowledging reality. Our city cannot afford uncertainty in the leadership level. Our residents deserve council members who can advocate without distraction and whose presence does not cast doubt over every vote, every decision, and every public interaction. For those reasons, I strongly urge Councilman Whitfield to step down or at minimum step aside while these matters are resolved. Doing so would not be an admission of guilt, it would be an act of responsibility. It would show respect for the office, for the council, and for the people of Geneva. Public service is a privilege. When circumstances prevent an official from fully serving the public interest, the honorable course is to put the community first. Geneva deserves leadership that is focused, credible, and worthy of its trust. Geneva deserves nothing less. Thank you for your time. Michael Pinko.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. Then I call the public comment section closed, and now I should make one note here. For those of you wondering, Amy Hendricks has not transformed into someone different. This is Assistant Manager, City Manager Taylor Youngs, and she has joined us. Amy, City Manager Hendricks got called away last minute to attend to an emergency or a personal issue. So Taylor is here in her stead, so welcome to the dais. Okay, now going to go and read, at least proceed with some proclamations. We have 3 this evening. Anyone here who's receiving a proclamation, just out of curiosity? Okay, let's go through this. Okay, start with the first. Whereas Donald McGuigan began his service with the City of Geneva Nestor Hose Company on January 6th, 1976 as a volunteer firefighter, and whereas Donald has faithfully and conscientiously served the Nestor Hose Company and the citizens of Geneva for 50 years, during which period of time he was dedicated to firefighting, support, fundraising, and the Nestor Hose Corporation. And whereas these years of service have been recognized by exemplary dedication to the best interest of the community, as Donald has worked constantly to support and give back to his community. And whereas the City of Geneva continues to benefit greatly because of Donald's commitment to supporting his fellow firefighters and the city, now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Cicery, in my capacity as Mayor of the City of Geneva, and on behalf of the entire City Council, would like to congratulate Donald McGuigan's 50 years of volunteer service with the Nestor Hose Company and express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Donald for his unwavering loyalty and dedication to the residents of the City of Geneva over the past 50 years. Next proclamation. Whereas Donald Champlin began his service with the City of Geneva Nestor Hose Company on July 6, 1976 as a volunteer firefighter, and whereas Daniel has faithfully and conscientiously served the Nestor Hose Company and the citizens of Geneva for 50 years, during which period of time he was dedicated to firefighting support, fundraising, and the Nestor Hose Corporation. And whereas these years of service have been recognized by exemplary dedication to the best interests of the community, as Daniel has worked constantly to support and give back to his community. And whereas the City of Geneva continues to benefit greatly because of Daniel's commitment to supporting his fellow firefighters and the city. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Cicery, in my capacity as Mayor of the City of Geneva, and on behalf of the entire City Council, would like to congratulate Daniel Champlin, 50 years of volunteer service with the Nestor Hose Company, and express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Daniel for his unwavering loyalty and dedication to the residents of the City of Geneva over the past 50 years. Whereas Charles Pittifer began his service with the City of Geneva Nestor Hose Company on April the 6th, 1976, as a volunteer firefighter, and Charles has faithfully and conscientiously served the Nestor Hose Company and the citizens of Geneva for 50 years, during which period of time he was dedicated to firefighting, support, fundraising, and the Nestor Hose Corporation. And whereas these years of service have been recognized by exemplary dedication to the best interests of the community, as Charles has worked constantly to support and give back to his community. And whereas the City of Geneva continues to benefit greatly because of Charles's commitment to supporting his fellow firefighters and the city. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Cicery, in my capacity as mayor of the City of Geneva, and on behalf of the entire City Council, would like to congratulate Charles Pittifer on 50 years of volunteer service with the Nestor Hose Company, and express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Charles for his unwavering loyalty and dedication to the residents of the City of Geneva over the past 50 years. That concludes the proclamations. Tonight we're going to have a supervisor update. Is Supervisor Regan here?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, see the new faces and those who have served before, and address you tonight on behalf of the supervisors. As you probably know, there are three, as I'm sure you know, there are three supervisors from the City of Geneva. It's myself, Jim Kennedy, and Esther Dickinson. And unlike the past few years, we have decided to rotate this when you want to see us, or at least every quarter. So you'll see me tonight, someone else another night, and hopefully we can keep you updated that way about what's happening in the county. You probably also are aware that the county works so differently than the council. We do committee meetings, and although I did start out as Lou Guard, I got a little head start. I was Lou Guard for 2 months, which is helpful because I got a little, I learned a lot even in those 2 months. But my particular committees are the the Planning and Environmental Quality Group, which is also called the PEQ by most people. It's right in my alleyway, my bailiwick there, because one of the reasons I was most interested in that is the landfill issues. And actually this coming Monday, we have a meeting where much of that is coming to the floor. You may be aware of reuse systems here in Geneva. That is being incorporated into really the whole plan for sustainability. And there's been some funding from the county in the past that we got half of up front. And so we're going to be presenting that to see if we, to be sure that we get the rest of that to help that continue and grow stronger. It's also the board that deals with tourism, and I actually have spent much of the day with the mayor and a couple others in this room. Today, we had representatives from a tour group, primarily from Europe and Canada, who came through Ontario County to visit various sites, and we started at Vinifera and did quite a bit of Linden Street, went to the Smith, and that was great. They were very impressed with Geneva, and they're moving on to Canandaigua, and then on to Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and so hopefully our meetings today brought up something that will resonate with the people that they organize tours with. It was great. In addition, this morning we met, and this is kind of a theme of, I think, the people who are representing you all in the county and this current council, and that is open communications and dialogue, and trying to really be sure we're all working together to make Geneva shine and get the attention it needs from all the bodies out there looking to our trying to help us along. So this morning, the county administrator, the mayor, our assistant manager, myself, and the other supervisors met, there was no agenda. It was just an open discussion. We learned quite a bit of what's going on in Geneva, and I was really happy to hear the initiatives that this board is taking now. So that was good, and that will continue every quarter as well. And we are also meeting with Mayor Ciceri very soon to just make sure we're all on target. You know, we're all kind of new. Jim Kenney has been in office for a bit, but so we're assured of how we can best communicate with each other and do what we can for Geneva at the county level. The other group that I'm involved with, the committee, is a public safety committee, and that does oversight of the jail, the sheriff's office, public defenders. Upcoming, there will be a proposed resolution it came from Canandaiguans, but regarding ICE and what the sheriff's involvement will be with ICE if they should happen to be, in our area and actively on their quest. So that would be an interesting discussion. I did get a chance to attend a graduation ceremony for people within the jail who have gone through an addiction program. Fascinating. It was like listening to This American Life on the radio or watching a great documentary where they explained, what they would tell themselves if they could talk to their younger self. It was really a great thing. It's what got me interested in being a part of this committee, is to know more about the process at the jail and what is happening there. The other thing I want to tell you is I think we will all be kind of involved with NISAC, which is like what your group is open to, which is yours is NICOM. Ours is the county legislations across the state meeting, and I'll be attending that meeting in Albany in March. So it's a lot of time now just kind of understanding better what our roles are at the county, learning, and trying to dig in as deep as possible. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions? Councilor Lavin.
I just really thank you for systematizing your presence here. The 8% taxes that the county takes from this community is more than half of what the city takes from this community. And I think there's real good questions as to how the priorities are set, what each role could be. There are places, both in police and fire, that the rest of the country is looking at regionalization and economic collaboration. The Northeast tends to linger in Brigadoon land on those things, and I think that is going to take leadership from people like you to start asking the questions about how can we do it better and cheaper.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's great that you'll see us, and hopefully, there'll be a great understanding between both bodies as to how we can best work together.
I agree, and I would just echo the meeting we had today, Councilor Lavin and the council at large. That was my first meeting of that, and the conversation was terrific, and the representation from the county was also incredibly not only respectful, but it was an excellent presence. We also had the chairman of the legislature in attendance as well.
Great.
So they were there, and we talked about very seriously and sincerely the strategic priorities of the city, what we're doing today and what we plan on doing in the future, with the goal and effort of having a better alignment with them. I think that alignment that we're talking about with our supervisors, our 3 supervisors, and dare I say even by extension the town and others around us, given your point around regionalization, things are evolving, things are changing, and there was not a person in that room who would not disagree with that. And now how do we capitalize on that and do things differently? So I thought it was an excellent meeting.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, I think. A lot of new folks and people working together as much as possible. I think we'll move everything forward in the way we want. So, yeah,
All
great.
right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Reagan. Okay, now we're going into the mayor's report. So I have 4 things to speak to. One of which, and these are all updates from the last meeting, and I'm going to introduce something new. We talked about, and this council came together to put together a strategic plan for the city, one that looks to 2027 and beyond. And we had an excellent working session in January, and my thanks and commending all of council for the participation. It was open to the public. We had some public participation as well. as my focus, our focus is to be transparent in what it is we're doing today and what we're focusing on for tomorrow. Out of that came several strategic priorities, of which we are now in the review process. So it has been drafted. It is now being reviewed by by the council, but also by city staff. So everyone understands what's in it. If there might be feedback around what we can and can't do, look, we can, from a council standpoint, have it in point to the future, but our city staff and administration might say, that's great, but, and we're just working through that right now to understand it. It's our goal to put something forth in terms of a resolution to make it public, so everyone has a chance to review it, opine on it, and then we'll go forth with a resolution likely in our next session as we move that forward. So I think that's a very important piece because it talks about the strategic priorities of this council. Second, the Ad hoc Finance Committee met, and in its initial meeting, my thanks to all the Ad hoc Committee members. At that point, it was decided we're going to start to look at first debt, the debt burden of the city of Geneva. What is it? What's its history? What does it look like going forward? And we're going to move on to look at the cash position of the city, all intertwined with our capital planning process, our current policies, our processes, et cetera. So the committee got off, I think, to a very good start. We have their first draft of findings that are currently in the process of being updated. I will say this, we have some incredibly smart folks on that committee, I think all of them. But I received, for example, from members Cy Smith and Cam Wong, very precise comments around municipal finance, municipal law, which are very, very helpful. But again, this effort, this focus is on not just understanding to help this council and the public understand where we are from a finance perspective to enhance and support and help, whether it's Controller Blowers, as city manager, assistant city manager, but for us to be better and more knowledgeable. So when it comes time for the budget process, this gives us some idea of what we have and where we stand. I think it's very important. I'm also proud to announce the next ad hoc committee, which was going to be launched, is the Downtown and Economic Revitalization Ad hoc Committee. This committee is going to focus on, in particular, the agencies as a starting point that currently do service Geneva. And my first comment on this is it's not meant to be an adversarial or a judgmental board. This is really meant to understand truly the entities such as the BID, the IDA, the LDC, the Office of Economic Development that we have here at City Hall. How are they currently functioning? What works? What doesn't work? How can we be better? How do we realign either here, if we realign at all? How do we strengthen? How do we adjust? How do we work differently with the county? How do we work differently with the state? These are all going to be posed to this group. That the members and that will all be announced and released today. Tomorrow. And we'll probably schedule our first meeting in March for that committee. But I'm particularly excited about that committee because of what it will do. We've been operating under these auspices for many, many years. And as Councilor Lavin said, things change. Everyone here knows that things have changed. How do we react differently for the Geneva of today so Geneva can be different tomorrow? So it's a very important outcome for that committee. So I'm very excited to announce that. I also attended the New York Conference of Mayors in Albany the last several days. Got back yesterday, I should say. And it was my opportunity to meet and talk with not only other mayors, but to hear what the legislative priorities are at the state level. And there are a couple of things I would report on about that. One is the state budget. I'm not sure how else to put this. It's an election year for the state. So it's an election year budget. Whether it works or comes to be what it is, I don't know, but it's an election year budget. And it basically holds the line, and I will stress that, in terms of spending on such things as aid and support for the city of Geneva and our surrounding communities and the county. And I say it because some of the things I learned, for example, is that some of these allocations have been in place for many, many years, yet never indexed for inflation. So you wonder why we're under such pressures. Here's a great example. If the state allocates, say, $100 million to aid cities, it's been that way for years and years, and it's never, ever changed to adjust for inflation. We have to make up for that. which makes it harder and harder to offer the support and the services that we want to offer. And we heard that in as much from the county today. I think Supervisor Reagan would attest to that. We talked about that at length as well. Where this really starts to bear is when cuts from the federal level start this fourth quarter and then go into 27. And that will put us in an even more difficult position, I think, as a governing body. That was one of the greatest takeaways I had from this session. I think, though, that on the very positive side, I had a chance to listen to the governor speak and to hear her priorities again, recognizing it's an election year budget, but she did focus very strongly some of the ideas or notions that cities just can't afford to upkeep things like a wastewater treatment plant, and grants need to be made available. And she made it very clear that her efforts were to improve that and to build upon it. And she proposed some enhancements, but in meeting with some of the senators and the assembly, it sounds like there'll be maybe not as much success as we would anticipate, but nevertheless, at least some of the things that we'll need are there. The only other thing I would mention with that is the chance to meet and network with other mayors and other entities who could be beneficial and supportive of Geneva in achieving our strategic priorities. Having these relationships is critical, especially as we look at things like housing, as we look at things like the future of downtown, the future of our infrastructure. These are the people who help us understand how to get the monies we need or to get the support we need to get things done. So I was very, very pleased to meet not only a series of other mayors, and I met, for example, with the mayor of Canandaigua. We talked at length, as the mayor of Utica, the mayor of Syracuse, who's actually a Genevan. I don't know if any of you knew that. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. And we had very serious discussions around a regional view on how we can collectively understand what we need to do and how we can be better. So I thought that was an excellent outcome. So apologies for taking a little bit long, especially with that, but it was exciting, and I think it does bode well with some possibilities for us. So that will conclude my report.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to keep this part short because I have to talk for way too long later under presentations. But I did just want to highlight, I believe, as Councilor Petropoulos mentioned, it's been a month of snow and winter events. And so I did want to shout out, this month, our DPW staff in particular have been responding diligently and very well to winter storm events, making sure that the roads stay clear and our community can stay safe, while also juggling other day-to-day operations, including responding to water main breaks and ensuring there is little to no disruption to residents' services. So I just really wanted to shout out the DPW staff on that. And most of our other updates will be discussed today during discussion and in our presentation. So thank you.
I would agree with that and extend my appreciation to DPW for the fine work they did during the storm, so thank you. Okay, that concludes the reports. Now we're going to go into presentations. We're first starting with Sydney Schumacher, Executive Director of the Geneva BID, or Business Improvement District.
Is the clicker there? No. Oh. There we go.
Are you clicking for
I
me?
will click.
You're gonna do my clicker?
Yes.
Thanks, Taylor.
It's a lot going on for me tonight.
It's a big job, I think. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. Some of you absolutely know me already, so I appreciate your indulgence in hearing the same presentation that you maybe feel like you've heard before, but I know that there are some new faces here, and so I wanted to come introduce myself, introduce the bid a little bit, give just a very short crash course on what we are and what we do and how our partnership with the city works, because I feel like that's essential to our continued positive relationship moving forward. So I'll do a little bit of me, a little bit of our team, our purpose and our function, some examples of the work that we have, goals for next year.
I left a bullet point up there that shouldn't be there. I'm not going to talk to you about budgetary concerns already. Please don't worry. We all need a break from that for a little while. And I have left a little bit more information in this presentation than I intend to verbalize to you today. And I have asked that be passed along to you just as sort of a reference guide for what the bid is. So I threw a little bit more in there that way if you had any questions or anything like that, you could refer back to it. So I am ready. So that's me. I am relatively new to this position. I started in September as the executive director, and I was previously working with the bid on grants, programs, and as the maintenance supervisor. So I had a pretty firm handle on one half of the job, and that half of the job is the one that I'm working most closely with the city and with DPW on. So I was grateful for that foundation before I stepped in. But then stepping into the executive director role, I am new. I am an outsider to Geneva also. I'm a relatively recent transplant. I've got family ties to the Finger Lakes over in Penn Yan on Keuka Lake, but I was not previously a resident here. And so I am sort of stepping into the bid with some new ideas that I am bringing along, and with an examination of our focus and what our priorities should be, and making sure that we are focusing on the things that we should be as an organization that fit our charter, that allow us to work the best and most efficiently that we can with the city and with the other organizations therein. So some examples of that are there for later. Ooh, we're going backwards. Should I start over? Does everybody want to hear it again?
I didn't even press anything.
It's just really excited. It's really excited to hear from me. So, crash course on the bid, functions of the bid. There are three primary functions that we are charged with, one of which is beautification and maintenance. The other is support of our existing businesses within our district. And then the third is our sort of ideal world with a full budget and full staff. Then we are contributing to economic development in ways that are not just beautification and maintenance. So our beautification and maintenance, that is our primary function, is economic development through beautification and maintenance. We have a contract with the city, so we are essentially a contractor that is doing some of the same work that DPW is. We work very closely with them and appreciate all the support that we get from them. We're doing the landscaping, the planting, maintenance, sidewalk cleaning, trash removal, salting, the flower baskets that hang from the light posts in the summer, the holiday decorations that hang from the light posts in the winter. That's our primary objective. Secondly, we are supporting, this is more of our day-to-day, we're supporting the existing businesses and property owners that are within our district. We are a special assessment organization, and so a small portion of property owner tax is set aside, and that funds the bid, and that's where that special assessment money goes, is towards that support of existing businesses. So those are the two places that our funding primarily comes from. For this, we're doing ribbon cuttings, communication, branding, fostering connections between businesses and community partners, tourism promotion, education, business recruitment and retention wherever we can. We are applying for and running grants wherever we have the bandwidth to do so, and those grants are meant to be a direct benefit to the downtown district. We're wearing a lot of hats. Ready? Ooh. Our team is 4 full-time people. It's myself and my colleague Lauren who are doing the in-office. Lauren is an absolute superstar, and we would fall apart without her. Our other absolute superstar that we have right now is Jonathan. He's our maintenance supervisor. He is our one and only maintenance team member right now. So Jonathan, if you've seen somebody out with a shovel and a bucket of salt in the downtown, that's been Jonathan all day, every day that it has been snowing, and we would be lost without him. And the intention is in the growing season that our maintenance team is bigger. In the summer, or in the winter, there's obviously less to cover than there is in the summer, so we will be hiring to fill out our maintenance team. And then we've got some HWS interns. Our relationship with them are great, and we've got a couple people who consult when we need them. But our in-house team is currently 3. I wanted to, you can go to the next one. I wanted to include our map because one of the number one questions that we get is, where is the bid? What are your districts? Who falls in and who doesn't? We have this district line. It's in dark green on the map there on the left. That is provided to us and determined by the tax assessor. So the bid does not get to decide who is and is not in our district. If you are a property owner or a business owner that falls within that tax assessor decided line, you receive our services automatically and for free. You are not paying for those aside from the special assessment taxes the property owners pay. So this is our current line right here. It's a bit of a strange shape, and there are some, well, there's a business, if you take 3 steps to the left that's not in the bid, then you would be in the right. But we have the majority of downtown is contained within our boundary line. This is just some examples of seasonal work. I put that up there for reference. I rattled them off a little bit already, but I broke it down there for you so that you can have that in your pocket just in case you're curious for later. And this is a little bit of expansion on some of those district work elements that I was talking to you about. This is the supporting of our current existing businesses and attempting to recruit and retain our businesses. So the fostering connections, communication and publications is our #1 thing that we're spending time on. We are moving towards small event hosting. Like I said, there's only 2 of us and our budget is only so much. And so what I'm hoping for is to be creating more self-sustaining and regularly occurring programming. So as opposed to big giant events that take all of our time and energy and bring a lot of foot traffic for maybe a day or 2, we're trying to find things that can bring slightly steadier foot traffic and these programs that once they get going, they can keep themselves going. And we're going to try and work with our businesses in our district to figure out what those things are. I'm in the throwing spaghetti at a wall phase here. I'm willing to try just about anything until we find what works best for our community. And then for this year is a little bit more of that. We're going to maintain our rigorous standards for beautification. We are going to continue to apply for grants and hope that we win them where we can so we can funnel that money back into the district. And we're going to increase our involvement kind of across the board in the areas that are most appropriate for us as an organization, making sure that we are involving ourselves where we should be and where we can be and where we can sustainably make the most difference doing so. Just some visual aids of some good things that happened last year, things people told us they had fun with, things that we saw some good turnouts for. This one I included in there just so that everybody could see it if they wanted to, but this is a really good example of our beautification work and the success that occurs from that. The Earth Planters is a local FLX company. They're on Cayuga Lake. They are the ones who make all of the hanging baskets and the ground planters that all of our petunias are in that are out all summer long. And we actually did such a great job with all of those things that the company came to us and told us that they wanted to film Geneva for their advertisements. And so they made a commercial based on all the imagery of Geneva that they came and collected. And so that was something that we were really proud of. And other towns are coming to see how we're doing that landscaping and the earth planters. So that's in there just for reference and a little bit of a hooray, look at Geneva. We look great. Thank you very much for your time. My email is there. I know Pete already brought up our annual dinner, and I did bring along those invitations because I wanted to personally invite everyone to our annual dinner next week, and so you should all have one of those in front of you. It's going to be at 41 Lakefront, and we really hope to see you there. I am appreciative to meet everyone that I haven't known and continue my relationship with those that I do, and I look forward to working together to better Geneva.
Thank you. Sydney, do you want to wait a sec? Does anyone have any questions for Director Schumacher, Councilor Lavin?
What is your overall budget
What is our overall budget for which year?
for 26?
For 26, if I'm not mistaken, our overall budget, I know that our city budget for maintenance is 107, and I want to say that our tax assessment budget, Adam, correct me if I'm completely wrong, it's something like in the realm of 200, right?
I don't know if it's quite 200,000.
I don't think so either. Our whole total is 180. Oh, thank you, Charlie. That's right. Charlie is our treasurer. Charlie knows. So it's 180 and it's 107 from our city contract.
So the 180 that you get from your members
Correct.
is in addition to the taxes they pay to the city for it on its assessment. It's not a portion of the city's normal assessment. Is that correct?
Is that
It's a line item on the tax bill.
Right. This downtown merchants still pay their full assessed taxes, and then they pay extra for the bid.
if you are a property owner?
If you're a property owner, right, right. Have they given you a goal for leveraging that money from the local property owners to generate other income to increase your overall budget? Has your board not done that?
No, our board has not done that. I think our goal is always to do as much as we can to leverage that and to increase our funding, absolutely, for sure. And so that's something that we're always thinking about. And one of the things that we've been focused on, actually, because we've had some trouble doing that, is instead supplementing with the grant money. And so we're using that funding to essentially keep our staff around so that they can do things like apply for grants and run those programs. And we're going to make the most of what we have and always keep the dream alive to increase that so that our budget gets a little bigger so we can do a little more.
Thank you.
I have just a few things for you. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Two things. I think the first is, and this was done last year, in terms of a survey of downtown that I conducted as a part of my efforts to become the mayor. And I commend you first on hitting the ground running in your role. I think anyone who has worked with the director will see that she's very diligent and focused and follows up on anything and everything and then some. So I commend you where you are, because I will say what the results had shown was something less, I would say, appreciative of the efforts of the bid historically, or at least over the last several years. And the concerns of many of the downtown business owners and property owners really presented you with a challenge, and present you with a challenge to not only improve, I would say, or suggest the credibility of the Business Improvement District, but also its effectiveness and outcome. And as Councilor Lavin mentioned, through the lens of the budget, it really is through that effectiveness that the eyes are upon you, fairly or unfairly, but that's the job, to help move this forward. So I think with that, my only recommendation is to go out and meet every single business owner you can, as quickly as you can, to let them hear what your story and focuses and efforts are, because I think that will help, I think, you move forward and achieve your goals and mission objectives that you outlined there. So that would be my only other comment. So thank you. Okay. We're now going to go into some cabinet briefings from an administrative standpoint. This, in part, for the purpose of the audience here, is to help this council, as well as especially the new members, understand some of the areas of which we govern. And so here, the effort is to not only educate, but also update in terms of these particular functions. So we'll start with Clerk Tillotson and her role as a city clerk. And she's always the one sitting there. She's the one who controls the timer, the agenda. That's what she's doing very quietly over there. Yeah.
I promise I won't take too much time. Right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, I'd like to give you a quick overview of the City Clerk's office. The City Clerk is a Chief Records Officer, Records Access Officer, and Registrar of Vital Statistics for the City of Geneva, and plays a vital role in municipal operations. At the Clerk's office, we manage official city records, including council meeting minutes, ordinances, local laws, resolutions, contracts, legal notices, and vital statistics like birth, death, and marriage records. In fact, our vital records archives date back to 1882, making us a key part of preserving Geneva's history. Our office also serves as a customer service hub for City Hall. We ensure residents and visitors receive efficient first-class service. We handle a variety of licensing responsibilities, including dog licenses, taxi operator licenses and hack plates, trash hauler licenses, and trash and recycling permits, to name a few. These services help keep city operations organized and compliant. You can also stop by City Hall to pay water bills and tax bills. Currently, we operate with 2 full-time staff members, the clerk and the deputy clerk. Looking ahead in 2026, we have 4 major goals in the clerk's office: to complete a records inventory project pending grant funding, formalize training for all boards and commissions, centralize and digitize all city contracts and insurance documents, and continue to track city charter updates in preparation for a comprehensive review in 2027. These initiatives will improve transparency, efficiency, and accessibility for both the public and city staff. In the clerk's office, we're strategic, detail-oriented, approachable, and committed to collaboration. Our office not only manages the city's records, but also strengthens the connection between city government and the community. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Clerk
In and out in
Tillotson.
under 3 minutes.
You are a model of efficiency. Okay. The next is Peter. Is it Primoslavsky? Am I pronouncing that right? Okay.
Here he is.
There he is.
Good evening. My name is Peter Premislavsky. I'm the IT director for City of Geneva. IT department is one of the few departments that they're usually not dealing directly with the public. So in our mind, our main purpose is to support IT needs for all city departments and function to help them to provide the best service to the public they can. The IT department has operated under a shared services agreement with City of Canandaigua since 2015, with department staff providing information services to both cities. At this point, the department includes 2 employees, me and our second technician, Zach, and we are in the process to adding 3rd technician. Each of the position will be shared 50-50 with City of Canandaigua. We are using third-party companies only for higher level networking support. In Geneva, we support around 170 end users, around 100 desktops and 50 laptops. We are involved in working directly with each department to discuss their needs, searching for best solution, and for the implementation of the result. We are responsible for network connection in the building and data connection outside of the building. We are supporting audio, video needs. We are supporting physical security, which includes around 90 security cameras in downtown of the city and inside of our buildings. We have close to 60 electronics door access. Our focus is on cybersecurity. We have in place multiple levels of protection, anywhere from web filter, spam filter, antivirus, managed detection and response, multi-factor authentication. We are monitoring our whole network. We are doing multiple daily backups of all our servers. We are providing annual phishing training to all users. Twice a year, we are conduct a phishing test simulation for every user in our system. Basically, we are involved with anything what is in even remotely touching computer or our network. Our goals for 2026, we are continue with upgrading downtown security cameras. We are finishing migrating servers to the newest operating system. We are continue our annual computer replacement program, and we are obviously pushing cybersecurity enhancements as much as we can. Any questions?
This might not be a question for you, maybe Taylor. How do we audit and monitor the cybersecurity risk, and have we had any issues recently or this past year?
We did not have any issues. No, now we did yearly penetration test and vulnerability test for our network. Now they change it to manually service. So credit card companies, they are monitoring, they are doing their own, I would say, penetration test from the outside of our network to make sure that everything is secure for the credit card transactions. We have managed detection system at this point, so that's actually working together with the state. There was some bigger cybersecurity money in the state system, so they shared this with the cities. We were luckily one of the locations, so we are part of the state cybersecurity managed system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Director Sluka?
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jennifer Sluka, the HR Director. I've actually been with the city this month for 27 years, so it's been a journey. Had many mayors and councils. Obviously responsible for the overall human resource management, our employees, our capital and capital assets. We cover anything from, we work very closely with Ontario County on all civil service administration. So that's in regards to whether it be your recruiting, your hiring, all your interviews. We do all the people management of that. From administration of benefits, so all of your employees' benefits are all coordinated through us. That also includes, we work closely with finance and all of the personnel spreadsheet and benefits and things that you see that comes into the budget. Myself, Adam, Kelly, we work very closely on all of that. We do anything from your workers' comp to your unemployment to your Fair Labor Standards Act to your family medical leave. The whole gamut of anything from payroll. Many hear about the Affordable Care Act. Others hear about GASB 75, which just talks about your post retirement benefits. So in addition to all of our 125 plus full-time employees, we add in our seasonal employees into the mix. We also have our retirees. So we have, for health insurance, I oversee all of that. So we have our under 65 retirees and our over 65 retirees. So as far as management, that's time consuming with everyone. Succession planning. So I have, when you see it says 1.9 in the HR department, Erica Kellens, who's been with the city just over 9 years, that's with her part-time as well as her full-time. She is 90% with the human resource, and her other 10%, she does communications. So all the information that you see that goes out, whether it be weather or just notifications in general, all our social media, that's what she works with. So in regards to succession planning, as you see is one of my goals, Erica obviously is directly under me learning, and hopefully the goal is to put her into my position, because that I always talk, everyone here I can see obviously, like Paul Cosentino's here, but institutional knowledge is critical. So, and that's what's helpful as counselors and a mayor, that when you come in, that transition is key. So obviously our goal is succession planning. We do it pretty much every year, but as we lose people and new people come, you're seeing more obviously in the human resource related world as people aren't staying in places as long, so turnover, and we're definitely seeing that, definitely in our numbers. So succession, I'll be working with all department heads and going through and truly looking at who they have, how we're looking to promote from within, and or who's looking to even just professional development. So as you'll see underneath that, we're looking at expanded professional development. Just last year, all of our city employees, so Peter didn't mention that, but everybody now has an email, badges, all sorts of things, which that assists us for all of our annual training. So we're working with that as part of the professional development. And HR digitization, obviously that's key, because we're looking to use more shared files with each department head, because I basically work, I'm your internal customer service. That's what our department does, is all the internal customer service. So we look for shared files so that we're not making copies. And all that documentation is right there. So bargaining units, I assist on all the negotiation team. So we do anything from all the negotiations, making sure the contract is fully completed, all the information is correct, and then obviously you guys get to see the completed contract. I think that's pretty much a lot of people ask, obviously. Right now, we currently have 6 vacancies, so we oversee that from the start to finish. I think that's it, unless any of you, I'm sure many of you probably will have questions along the way, but I'm certainly can answer any you have tonight.
Any questions?
No?
What's our current turnover rate?
Well, I don't know that we do it as an actual turnover rate. So because we have, ours is a little bit different just because we have the promotional, so we don't normally do it in a percentage. So we normally just look at how many full-time vacancies we're filling or how many, so right now we have 6 vacant. By the end of the month, we'll have probably, or by the end of the quarter, we'll probably have 7. But there isn't really.
We have a good average tenure then
Mhm.
of people. Okay.
Yeah, but we are, like I said, we're definitely seeing what's happening
Right.
in the world. You're seeing people not stay as long as they customarily used to.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you for those updates and briefings. The next Assistant Manager, Youngs, will give the 2025 year in review and the year ahead.
Great. So I'm going to try to keep this brief, but we do have a lot of things to celebrate and highlight, as well as a lot of exciting work to look forward to. I will say, a bulk of the latter half of the presentation does talk a little bit about some of these operational areas. And so we'll kind of go through those because all of our departments will provide administrative briefings at different meetings. So they'll dive into the details of those ongoing operations. I'll really focus on kind of highlighting those metrics and successes that they achieved in 2025 and the high-level goals for 2026. So again, that's really what we'll focus on for this presentation. We'll talk a little bit about what the theme for 2025 was and how we're looking ahead to 2026. What you'll hear over and over again are work programs and strategic planning, and that theme will continue through this presentation. We like to keep our staff as well as ourselves grounded in our mission, vision, and values. I won't read these. You can see them on the walls, and you can see them in the PowerPoint. These really ground the work of all of our staff here. As you all know, the council is who sets our policy priorities, our strategic direction, and then as staff, we operationalize that, we implement that. And so we try to maintain grounded in those goals. And so in 2025, the council goals were ensuring fiscal and organizational stewardship of city resources, promote economic development within the city, increasing and sustaining intergovernmental relations with city partners, developing and implementing strategies to create and continue dynamic communications regarding city actions, and enhancing the overall quality of life for city residents. How do we define 2025 as really a year of measured progress? It wasn't necessarily a year of flashy expansions, new programs, but really attempting to maintain, incremental progress on projects that were already in the works, as well as strengthening our foundation through our people and through some of those key capital projects. We really tried to maintain fiscal discipline while making sure that our services did not diminish, that the public was still able to be served to the level that they deserve. We were strategic in our infrastructure investments. I'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about DPW successes this year. We tried to focus on the expansion of the housing pipeline. We had a couple of wins this year we can really celebrate. Really focusing on the shared services, the intergovernmental collaborations. How do we work with our partners, the town, the county, et cetera? How do we increase that transparency between council and city staff, residents and city staff, our partners and city staff? Measurable public safety performance, and making sure that we maintain aligned. So keeping the theme of those strategic council goals that really guided our work in 2025, it began with a very clear directive, and that is making sure that we control costs and make sure that taxpayer dollars are being expended in an efficient and effective way to the best of our ability. And so one highlight I just want to make here is that we were able to achieve a $200,000 in savings on the personnel front, which allowed us to lift the hiring freeze last year. And so we began hiring, and actually thus I am in this role. Under ensuring fiscal and organizational stewardship of city resources, we really proved that fiscal responsibility and forward progress are not mutually exclusive. We can do both. They are partners. And so, we were able to begin 2026 budget planning earlier than ever, and I'm sure we'll try to beat that record this year with 2027 budget planning. We launched a water and sewer rate study. We improved grant lifecycle oversight, increased transparency through more public updates, city manager updates regularly, coffees with the city manager, et cetera. And while we stabilized those finances, we also made major progress in infrastructure. Our ATAD, as you've heard in a bunch of council meetings over the past at least year, I know, that progress continues to go, 95% design readiness last year. Castle Street reconstruction, we see that work has began and is moving relatively well. A 750 service lead line replacement plan, which is a $13.8 million project, was submitted. We saw the Middle Street Bridge design advance under Bridge New York. So lots of progress while maintaining that fiscal stewardship. We also want to make sure we keep economic development front of mind to keep our city competitive, and a great way for us to ensure our residents have a wonderful place that they're proud of to live in. And so housing and economic development were central themes in 2025 and maintain a central theme in 2026. We saw progress on that. We've talked about the OEO site, 595 Exchange Street. We saw progress with a proposal there at the planning board. We've seen Lakeview Health is advancing the relocation of about 75 jobs to our downtown area. We have Tech Park 2, our partnerships with Cornell Agritech, showing great progress there. Habitat for Humanity has advanced towards additional housing in the city. And then we also achieved full compliance on the short-term rental licensing program that we had implemented. We continue to engage with our partners, the BID, LDC, IDA, and we continue to rally around strategic priorities to make sure we're moving in the same direction, just as the mayor has indicated in his ad hoc committees that we are looking at. The DRI projects continue to close out, and including the Marina project. We were able to adapt and overcome when bids came in higher than anticipated, and we continue to move that project forward. Under intergovernmental relations, collaboration continues to be a priority for the city. So we maintain very strong relationships, as the Supervisor Reagan mentioned earlier, very strong relationships with our county, with other municipalities, with our hometown institutions, Hobart and William Smith. We have great relationships to make sure we are getting a lot of use out of our facilities, including our ice rink and McDonough Park. We have participated in different legislative day. The mayor was able to attend NICOM. He spoke about that earlier. Our fire shared services discussions continue to progress, and we anticipate those going into this year. Resource Recovery Park, sustainability, climate resiliency were all center of conversations as well. And then I think a great win that we haven't highlighted a ton is through a grant that we received through the ICMA and the Gates Foundation. We have a partnership with Geneva 2030 and the Geneva Housing Authority that focus not just on the infrastructure of housing, but on the opportunity for folks and how that can help them advance generational wealth, et cetera. Developing and implementing dynamic communications. We want to ensure that residents feel that their concerns, as well as their, the opportunities, anything that they have is received well by City Hall, and we respond in a timely and efficient and effective manner, and in a way that folks see progress. So we try to maintain those lines of communication through community conversations. As I mentioned, the city manager held last year, starting in March through the end of the year, where folks were able to engage directly with the city manager and different department heads at different locations throughout the city. We do monthly 7:50 a.m. radio updates to make sure that there's a predictable time. You can always count on the city manager providing updates on what we're working on here in the city. We provide written documentation of some of those updates monthly to the public. We have began developing a formalized communications policy that will be coming up this year as well. We have coordinated our social media efforts. One thing that comes up often is, folks are like, are we having, water main breaks, more issues in the city, and what we're seeing is that we're just able to communicate what's going on more, right? These things were happening, we were responding to them in the background. Now we're just making sure that folks are aware of what we're doing and how it may impact their lives. We've also expanded our public budget sessions, as I mentioned, and I'm sure we will continue that trend into 2026. And then we've also partnered with different organizations to ensure that we're promoting the city at no additional cost to residents. Transparency is really the focus of this goal. And then enhance the quality of life. So public safety, infrastructure, reliability, and community vibrancy defined this goal. The police were able to advance their reaccreditation process, which has 112 standards, a lot to work through, and props to that team for reinforcing that professionalism and that accountability. The fire team advanced federal reporting compliance and regional coordination, again, looking at those shared services, the infrastructure work that I've already mentioned, and community vibrancy maintains, center stage for us. We do all of this in the name of advancing the Geneva community. And so the farmers market we saw is at full capacity as far as vendors. You'll see we had 97 vendors at the farmers market this year. The Ironman competition that is hosted here actually was recognized as one of the best of its kind in the world. And so I think that's a huge accomplishment for this city. And then our recreation programming and community events, continue. We try to improve them and continue to grow that. So how do you think about this, how the city works, right? What's happening behind the scenes every day? And we really have divided this up into what we've talked about as our work programs, again, and then the daily operations. In any government, it's important for those two to complement each other, but in particular in small city government, right, where you're working with a smaller staff, we've got to make sure they stay intertwined and they stay the front of mind. And so starting with the daily operations, when you think about what happens every day in the city here, we've got police, we've got fire, we've got water and sewer, we've got road repair, park maintenance, permit processing, keeping our buildings up and running, and then hiring of the folks that keep those things happening and making sure we keep our businesses here and keep our community vibrant. So all of that work continues while we identify some of these new opportunities and new projects that we have. Examples being updating our comprehensive plan, making sure that we're staying on track with that, continuing to expand and improve our preventative maintenance for a lot of our infrastructure. Looking at developing new ways to think about how we fund our recreation or how we communicate with the public where a code enforcement case is in the process. These projects in the work program, these additional items, tend to have defined timelines with clear outcomes, but again, happening in collaboration with what has to occur every single day. We don't do this without clear definitions of success. We're not just doing this in a silo. We're making sure that it is informed by what the community needs and that we put a number or a name or a goal to that. And so that's what our key performance indicators and annual metrics look like. They're a little bit different. Those KPIs are really focused on those work programs, those timelines, those things that are occurring in a specific timeline versus what is happening day to day. And then our annual metrics track long-term operational trends, how we operate day to day over the years and how we improve upon that. And so getting into our departments, again, I'm going to try to keep this section relatively brief. There are administrative briefings on each of these offices, on the calendar. We heard 3 today. There'll be additional ones in future council meetings. I actually think city manager is on the March council meeting agenda at some point. But really highlighting the successes of 2025. So these are our annual metrics. Again, these long-term operational kind of benchmarks of success. So looking at the cumulative amount of grant revenue awarded annually, as you will see, we saw a tremendous increase from 2023 and 2024, and we continue to try and stay in that $2 to $5 million range when we think about the operational capacity of our staff. That's where we found our sweet spot while we are going after opportunities that make sense, but making sure we comply and are able to successfully complete projects. Looking at the percent of performance evaluations completed and the percent of open contracts ratified, we're still seeing success in those areas in 2025. And our key work program goals, again, we'll run through these in our administrative briefing, but continuing to just look at stable financing, accountable governments, long-term planning instead of short-term reaction. Our facilities, we're looking at the numbers of parks and acres maintained, the number of cemeteries and acres maintained, and the number of burials and full cremations. I think something that most folks don't know is the amount of staff time that goes into maintaining those cemeteries, as well as a burial. You're looking at, usually at a minimum 4 staff members all day, working on those burials. And then, of course, keeping the cemeteries to the quality that they deserve and we should as a city takes a lot of time as well, making sure we're mowing and making sure things look nice. Those key goals for facilities, those work programs, again, we'll walk through them in more detail during the city manager's office briefing on facilities. What it really means for the public is just making sure we're responding efficiently and effectively to any type of work order, any type of complaint, any need on city property. Clear tracking so we know where things are, and making sure that we are, again, thinking long-term maintenance so we're not always reacting to emergency fixes, but able to have that preventative maintenance and ensure that we can, keep things going. Looking at recreation and economic development, some of our annual metrics: businesses open downtown, the value of city property sold and returned to taxable income, taxable property, and then the number of vendors at the farmers market that I mentioned earlier. So continue to see progress on those and advancement on there. We've actually reached capacity on the farmers market vendors, and so we'll continue to attempt to increase the foot traffic and the folks that attend. For recreation, the number of rink passes sold continues to increase. There's great utilization of that facility. The number of youth in summer camp, and then the number of days per year the rink complex is in use. A goal of ours is, of course, optimizing our use of our facilities, and so making sure that it is open as many days as possible a year and being used by the public as many days as possible is a goal, and we see a continued upward trend in that at the rink. And again, these goals for the work program are here. We'll go through them in detail during the city manager briefing. What it means for you all is more opportunity, hopefully more programming, and then smart long-term growth. Planning, zoning, and code enforcement. Our annual metrics are the number of code complaints acted on and the number of property enforcements. So you see those numbers there. We'll talk through those work programs in more detail during the briefing. What we really want to ensure is that customer service is at an all-time high. When folks have a complaint, want to know where something is, want to know how to get through a process, they are easily able to do so and they know where to go. That communication is clear when there are violations, that the communication you receive is clear in what we are assessing and what the process is to remediate that, and again, who to engage with in those situations. And then, of course, fair and consistent enforcement continues to be a goal of ours. The city clerk's office, as you can see, minutes adopted with no corrections. Clerk Tillotson is great at that, 100%, no changes needed last year. Lots of licenses issued last year, and then the percent of meeting agendas provided at least 5 days prior to a meeting. Well, she talked through a little bit about what the work program is, so I won't go through that again, but high level, we want things to be accessible. We want to be governing our documents professionally and in compliance with, our legal requirements, and making sure that we have a strong institutional memory, right? We're an old city with a lot of history, and we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of that. In our finance department, we have the tax collection rate, our average rate of investment return, number of adjusting entries by auditors, equalization rate, and taxable assessed value. We'll go through these in more detail and the goals during that briefing. What does this mean for you all? Long-term fiscal stability, transparent financial practices, and fair assessments. Our fire metrics are the number of calls, the number of mutual aid calls, working together with our partners to ensure safety across the region, the number of code enforcement visits, and the cumulative hours of training received by career staff, making sure folks are staying up with the newest trends and maintain their certifications. Chief Parada will go through these goals during his briefing, but what we want to make sure is that we are always ready. We are always able to respond, quickly. Those minutes matter when it comes to the fire and police department response time, making sure that we are ready to serve our partners and our partners are ready to serve us, and that we are thoughtful in our evaluation of how we provide our services through public safety. HR, we talked through a lot of this already, so these are the metrics that we look at, the full-time positions filled, our onboardings and our retention rate. Here you can see. And I won't go through these, but we just want to make sure that we are supporting our employees so that they are able to provide the services they provide to you all, that we have a prepared workforce, that we are able to provide our services without lapses because of losing folks and not having a pipeline of folks to fill those positions. And then we want to make sure as well, in our leadership roles, that we maintain a pipeline of folks ready to step into those roles as our workforce ages or retires or moves on to other opportunities. IT, Peter talked through a lot of these. One thing that I always like to highlight, just because I think it's the first government agency that I've worked with where we actually build our own computers. I just think that's the coolest thing ever. Most governments will just pay for them, buy them, and then we have to, when they break, go buy new ones. We have a staff that's capable of building those, and so when they break, we're the ones who are able to fix it, on top of all the other things that Peter mentioned we do. Cybersecurity is obviously very important in this day and age, and we do very well with that, as Peter mentioned, making sure our systems are reliable and that there is very reduced technology risk. Our police, again, public safety, we maintain those same goals. Here are the calls dispatched, the body-worn camera hours, the use of force incident completions, and the total overtime hours, which I know Chief Eveland is proud of seeing a decline in that overtime while having vacancies, et cetera, over the last year. What does this mean for the public? Professional policing, strong community connection. That's the benefit of having our own police department here. Lots of times we like to see them, live in this community so they know the community and there's that connection, and smarter enforcement. DPW, which covers a lot of different things, so there's a lot of different metrics here. The number of streets milled and paved, right-of-way permits, dig safe tickets, tree and street light complaints responded to, street sweeper trips, winter trip stays. You can see all of these numbers are very impressive, particularly for our staffing levels. Tree debris, food scraps, water line repairs, number of daybook calls, amount of wastewater treated annually, and the estimated amount of stormwater infiltrated annually. And then utility structure repairs, sewer line repairs, and collection system inspected and lined, both sanitary and storm sewer. And all of those metrics are really in addition to a lot of those major infrastructure projects we've mentioned earlier. Those happen at the same time that these operations happen. And Director Venuti will give an administrative briefing on all of this, go in more detail on those work programs. But what we want to make sure is that we're caring for our infrastructure. We have old infrastructure. We want to make sure that we're caring for it. We're able to do a little bit of preventative maintenance when we have the time, have safe roads, and sustainable water systems. So that's kind of in a nutshell all of the departments and what their focus is for 2026, in addition to some of their achievements for 2025. What this means going into the new year is we want to ensure that the strategic plan that council works on is really aligned with where city staff is heading already, and then where we need to adapt and align. And so as council really embarks on this strategic planning, there's possible that there are new strategic priorities different from what we may have discussed today. Existing initiatives may be expanded. There may be work programs that need to be paused, adjusted, or replaced. We may need to look at resources being reallocated to align with that council direction. And so we just want to make sure that three things are critically aligned, and that is our strategic direction, the capacity of our staff, and then our financial resources, while maintaining the services that residents have, deserve and expect from the city. So if there are new priorities that are adopted and additional time and resources are needed to develop plans for the future, we may need to pause or redirect efforts from what we've outlined here today and what department briefings will outline as those priorities, adjust different timelines on some of those major capital projects that are in our capital improvement plan, as well as ones that are already underway. What that staffing needs to look like, what that funding needs to look like. Our commitment as staff is to align with council's direction while presenting realistic timelines, identifying where those impacts are going to be felt up front, making sure we're aware of that as we make decisions, communicating those adjustments transparently both with council and the community, aligning our execution with council direction, and responding still in real time to those emerging needs that pop up every single day. And we just wanted to end kind of with a framing as we think about strategic priorities, we think about 2026, and that is that a strong strategy is not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things well. And that's what staff maintains their focus on as we, get our guidance from City Council. And that is all.
Thank you. That was a lot.
A lot happens here.
First, just any questions or comments from counselors? There's a lot there. I think we probably could unpack that over several hours.
I do have,
Judging
sure
by
we
the
will.
judging by the group here, I don't think they would prefer us to do that tonight. Counselor Lavin.
and not to be a Debbie Downer, but I do have to say that when I look at this, I'm always impressed by the amount of work that the staff can do, the quality of it. I see them, I stop whenever I see them digging up streets in the middle of the night and thank them for their work. This is not, my comments aren't about that. It's that there's very little talk about revenues in that for goals and for where we're looking. And we have to, at some point, come to grips with the fact that we are twice the spender on municipal than anyone else in this county, that we're out of line, we're out of competition for living and housing here, and we're doing great work, but we can't, we have to look at revenues, we have to get tougher with our, we can build the greatest sewer plant in the world, but we're doing it without even agreements marked out yet with the town and the other communities about what they're paying for that portion and the access to it. And we're not going at it with an attitude of, this is an unjust situation where the towns around us are benefiting from the massive investment that the people who live here are making. And that's why we're at $12.75 per thousand when the next closest one in Canandaigua is like $6.75. That's like running a mall down the street from another mall and having twice the price. We can't continue to do that, and we're going to have to get tough on the revenue side. No, they can't keep taking from the city and reducing the cost of living in the surrounding towns at our expense, and we're going to have to start looking at revenue as a metrics for the work you're doing, not just the great work you're doing, but the financial condition we're left in. And I think I didn't see any references in that entire report to, other than some talking with the fire departments. We have like 7 fire departments in a 2-mile area here.
If I
Okay,
may,
and
Councilor Lavin.
and I know these are coming up with your
Yeah.
committees, but there's an urgency that goes beyond long-term strategic planning that needs to go on. I plan, and I'll say this now to bring up to put on the budget for March, proposals to hold off on any hiring right now, to cut back on some of that last-minute spending spree we did in December, until we can get the ad hoc committee the chance to identify whether or not we can sustain and pay for what we're doing here with this great report. I'm impressed by the report, the great work you're doing, and I don't want to say, but I think we're going to have to confront, and I'm willing to lose more votes. I have for 2 years now on the way we're spending. 10% increase in spending with a 3 or 4% reduction in our surplus last year says to me that if we do nothing this year on the budget, we're going to face a 10 to 12% tax increase when you get your budget done next.
So, Councilor Lavin, I feel as though I'm almost able to give your presentation because I understand it.
I know.
I do.
I know.
And I think the sense of urgency is one of the things that you're relaying.
Right.
And I'll start first by saying thank you, Assistant Manager Youngs, for putting that report
Yeah.
through and all the work that you and all of the city does to make that what it is. It's truly remarkable considering the resources and the funding you currently even get. So thank you, and thank you all for that. I do recognize a few things from that report, and the city manager and I have spoken about this, and that is, and why, in no small part, why these committees have been formed,
Right.
and what it is they're intending to do. And it is about understanding the basis of our current economic situation. It is understanding how it is we're structured today, and can we be restructured a different way tomorrow. It is about how do we look at our housing and the criticality of it and adjust ourselves to improve, to become the housing community of choice for the future. And how do we take some of our most precious assets and translate those into true diamonds that can continue to shine, for decades to come. I will say this, one of the things I look forward to, and I think about the terms in there now, I will say this, I'm a finance nerd, right? I understand finance, I understand metrics, I understand goals and objectives. One of the things I look forward to working with this council on, with the city manager and all the city staff on, is the accountability level in terms of what metrics are we applying as a council. Two things, for example, like you're talking about, Councilor Lavin, as it relates to whether revenues or achieving revenues, cash positions, return on investment of cash, a lot of different things that will make us better and smarter and able to hold ourselves, the city, accountable to the people of Geneva. That absolutely must happen, and it's, I think, a priority of this council. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. Not a soul. And I think that's the effort we're undertaking now, and the time it's going to take while we look at each one of these without seeking to disrupt some of the fine work that some of the folks here are doing, but to enhance and augment. And if we have to make a tough decision, I think we will. I'm not afraid to do that either. I don't think anyone on this dais is, and we may not agree all the time, and that's fine too. But my sense is that's what's going to occur. So at that note, we could unpack a lot there, but we won't. We'll just say thank you and appreciate that.
Yeah, if I could just one thing, to Councilor Lavin's point, I think, city staff obviously recognize revenue is a huge part of our budget discussions, and we make sure that we break those line items out and really dive into the areas in which the city is, making money to pay for services. So we have that information and certainly want to share that information as a part of, our budget process. We attempt to do that. This was really focused on some of the programmatic
I
items.
understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, ending that section, we're going to go into the discussion section, section 10. We're going to start with Director Venuti. Thank you for patiently sitting. Oh,
What do you got?
Oh, no, I think we're
Financial review.
if I'm not mistaken, Ed, we're pulling that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have
Which
said that. My fault.
We talked about
Yeah.
prior to the meeting, and it's an even better call now, I think.
Yep. So I had it.
I had
strict-
questions for you.
I'll ask him on behalf of Councilor Lavin.
I think I know what they are.
If you do, answer his questions first, we get this thing going.
Okay, let's move to the discussion portion, please, and with Director Venuti first.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, councilors, and all the attendees this evening. Clerk Tillotson had the handout materials. It's in the agenda regarding what are called flashing beacons. RFFB is kind of the acronym known in the business of traffic control devices. About a year ago, or sometime last year, we talked about South Main Street and the urgency or presumed urgency there is of safety at pedestrian crosswalks. It was suggested we looked into safer pedestrian crosswalk options on the South Main Street corridor. And so I'll share with you some of the information that's available and a recommendation that we have here. Currently there are 6 marked crosswalks, each with a pedestrian sign warning and a painted pavement marking symbol on the street that run from Seneca Street south to St. Clair Street. To date, council has approved reducing parking spots in these areas by restricting parking at or near a couple of the crosswalks We feel that we've increased visibility to pedestrians in these areas. The current in-place traffic control features does improve the safety, but that we could always do more, right? So we're looking at increased visibility, and a recommendation to do that would be to install flashing beacons in this area. These flashing beacons enhance pedestrian safety, increase driver awareness. These are uncontrolled marked crosswalks. Uncontrolled means there's not a traffic signal there. Transportation agencies typically use these beacons throughout the country. It's a widely recognized device. However, there are requirements for where to place them and how to place them. We would like to pilot 3 locations. I use the word pilot with quotations. 3 locations, which would be the north and south crossings closest to Park Place, which is in your diagrams. And then also across from houses number 615 and 616 South Main Street, which are college properties known as the Alumni House and the Delancey Guest House, for reference. Very busy areas where people cross for the colleges. These activated warning lights alert motorists. There's 2 usually rectangular shaped light emitting diodes, LED arrays, if you will, that are flashed at irregular patterns, which really grab your attention as a driver, so they're kind of hard to ignore. And they're push button activated. So instead of being steady burn, we've heard complaints from property owners and tenants who don't want to have a light flashing where they live or irritate them in their apartments or homes. So these are activated when somebody pushes the button. We're choosing to look at a solar system instead of hardwire, where we can not have to pay for a power source and continually have monthly bills with it. We looked into and found that these costs to install these are reimbursable by the CHIPS funding program. That's a consolidated local highway improvement monies that we get annually from the state DOT. It is State Route 14. The DOT will not install these, but they will allow us to install them at our costs. And then, of course, we can get reimbursed for it. So I wasn't sure that we needed an approved resolution to move forward with this. That's why we're making it a discussion. Bring it forward if we want to move forward. We're talking about, there's two signs at each crosswalk, so 6, and we're somewhere in the neighborhood between 30 and 36,000 is what I've estimated for them.
Thank you, Director Venuti. Just one question, or first question. You said they're button activated. So the ones I've experienced, when you walk near them, they automatically start flashing, right? So is that just the technology we have available, or was this technology chosen? Was this what was provided to us?
Perhaps, I'm not aware of that, but maybe there's a photo cell system that some companies have. We researched a few communities around here, and I really like what Fairport is doing with this TAPCO program, or their equipment rather. But we certainly can look at other options, yeah.
I was just curious if there were different ones you looked at.
I'm not aware of those.
Okay. Counselor Gummo.
2 separate questions. Question 1, I understand the upfront cost is fully reimbursable. Do you have a forecast for what longer term maintenance costs look like?
Well, like everything, there's a warranty, right? They're only as good as the sun source, so I'm assuming in the winter time or these dark, cloudy days, somebody's going to have to get out there and wipe off the array every once in a while. We do seem to have a lot of motor vehicle accidents with property damage. I can't estimate how many times it may or may not get hit by somebody trying to park their car, but I would assume probably a 10-year lifespan.
Okay. The thing I'm considering here is like the case where like you inherit a large, beautiful house, but then you can't afford to like actually maintain it over time. I worry what the long-term maintenance costs of this are and like how they would fit into a budget. And it's like fine to not have those answers now, but I would encourage us to take those into consideration.
Counselor Gameau, I hope you ask that question every time we talk about something.
I'll try to do my best. Next question, unrelated to that, is we have similar locations on North Seneca Street. What is the thing that's pushing you to focus on 14 over at North Seneca? Or a mixture, if this is a pilot?
So the Federal Highway Administration guidelines, and I'll often refer to any signage requests to the manual uniform traffic control device. Both they and the Federal Highway group, there's many applicable types of crossings where these are particularly effective. However, it's been proven that like multi-lane crossings with speed less than 40 make the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you really want to recommend these for locations with safety issues already, right? If we overuse these, they'll tend to be ignored and diminish, their effectiveness.
Got it. So you're saying like the crossing in front of the Opera House, for example, we're not seeing problems there, but we are seeing problems on 14.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilor Lavin.
Just Ward 1 question. Was there a discussion of the parking on the lake side between the second of those crossings and J Street? I've wanted to see getting rid of that parking. One, because it's duplicated on the campus anyway, but did you weigh that out? Did you analyze that in this analysis of Route 14?
Well, several discussions have been brought forward, or at least let's call them complaints, right? Because we're a big complaint center. Our concerns have been brought up about parking on South Main Street. And in speaking with the chief, Evelyn, collectively, he and then his predecessor, I was involved with Lieutenant Potter while he was here. There just isn't data that shows that we've had accidents or pedestrian strikes, if you will, to warrant taking away more parking.
So we need to kill it. We need to kill a student, and then we'll do it.
I don't want to say that, but if you look at the way the state and the federal government change policies, usually that's what it is.
Any other questions or comments?
I do have a comment.
Oh, please.
I suggest you stop working on this right now because they're not going to work. I would suggest, I'm going to promote this. I'm going to promote what we talked about last year, which is reducing the speed limit by 5 miles an hour, which is as much as you're allowed to by these NISDOT rules. And the reason is that they've changed recently the point system for infractions against your license. So if you're going 40 now in the 30 zone, it's X number. But if you reduce the speed limit, you'll be going 15 miles over the speed limit by going 40. And I would include more police enforcement on that road. That won't break down over time. And to Mr. Gummo's point, and you agree, I know this, that we are going to install hardware which will fail, which will break, and it won't be replaceable easily. A lot like electric car chargers. But that if they break, they're very expensive to replace. Everybody wants them until they have to pay for them again. And another thing I'd say to you is that the reason you touched on this is that over time people become inured to these things, and so they don't actually have the effect that you think they're going to have. In fact, using the speed bumps on Pulteney Street as an example, people now don't bother to look either way when they cross the street. They look at their phones, they do anything, but they don't look at the street that they're crossing. And I suggest that these devices give that same sense of false security. So I'm going to be voting against any installation of these things, not to mention that they're ugly. Thank you. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, Councilor
It's
Gummo.
all right. We agree. We disagree once in a while.
Councilor Gummo.
I realized that my earlier question sounded skeptical of this, but I wanted to say that I'm in support of this if the cost profile is right. I do believe we have a pedestrian safety issue on 14. We have pedestrian safety issues on more than just 14. Like 5 and 20 is a massive problem, in my opinion, where there aren't even crossings that should be available to pedestrians. But I think it's important that we are keeping our students safe. That crossing that has big trucks on a truck route all the time still affords a safe way for pedestrians to cross the street.
Counselor Gelati?
I'm going to jump on the Councilman Brennan bandwagon a little bit here. When do we start holding people accountable for crossing roads, looking both ways, getting off their phone? Why is it going to have to cost the city to put up signs that they're going to ignore anyway, for the most part? Parking may be an issue, but I still go back to the fact that nobody pays attention. They don't pay attention when they drive. They don't pay attention when they cross streets. So, I mean, when do we start holding them accountable as far as crossing the roads? Is the college doing anything to educate the students as far as you have a responsibility to look both ways before you cross the street? Same thing on Seneca Street. I don't know. I think we're spinning our wheels here. We're not going to the root cause, which is holding people accountable, and instead of spending our money on stuff like this.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Yeah, I know I was one of the ones that suggested that as a possible alternative to nothing. But again, I'm thinking the way Councilor Gelati and Councilor Brennan are thinking to some degree. Yeah, if people just pop out between cars, they're going to do that regardless. Cross at the green, not in between. Remember that? So what can be done to enhance safety from the pedestrian's point of view as well as the drivers? Obviously, you know, everything's aimed at the drivers, but it takes two to cause an accident. So it's going to take some effort to educate the public. I don't know that we can do that, but I agree with Councilor Gelati. We have to hold people accountable, whether they're behind a wheel or, you know, stumbling across the road.
Hey,
I'm not going to say anything.
Thank you.
I,
Counselor?
we have a large company the lead company of this town. It brings 2,100 kids to campus every year. We didn't shut down Pulteney Street, which we should have when we had the chance, and put up bollards. Instead, we have a road that's a crappy crossings on Pulteney that people now won't drive down because it's too hard on their cars. And we have kids, 2,100 come every year, fourth of them are new. And we built a boathouse down there, and we're saying, tough kids, we're letting garbage trucks come through at 400 a day, and we're not monitoring them, and we're not keeping them clean, and we're not doing any of the things we're supposed to do with those trucks, and we're letting parking on both sides, and we're saying, kids, it's time for you to learn. Come on. That's a big company for us, and we need to make it better and safer for the customers. As soon as somebody dies out there, you're going to have to listen to me giving you I told you so all the time.
Okay.
If you want that. Jesus.
All right. So here, I guess the question is, there's no resolution. This is just for the soliciting of opinions, which I think you got, Director Venuti, unless there are more. If this requires a resolution, does this require a resolution?
What's being asked and what's being asked to do. I mean, if one hasn't been prepared, then there is no resolution to be presented.
No. Whether or not this would require a resolution, if so, at the March meeting.
No, it would be something that the city manager would direct Joe to do, based on the feedback.
Okay. I think I would encourage this, Director Venuti, in hearing this. I think for me, the proof is in around what are the current statistics in terms of folks who've been hit or folks who really have or what's been affected by this. Certainly acknowledging the safety issues with really what is our largest entity here in the city. And I'm not sure if they provided any feedback on this, and I would certainly ask that, considering it's square in their backyard or side yard. And also certainly acknowledging where do you draw the line as it relates, but it appears that will be your call. And I think if anything's been achieved tonight, you've heard the range of opinions here and thoughts. Those are my suggestions. I certainly look at downtown, and when I come up Castle and I see, I think, 8 of those yellow signs, it draws my eyes immediately. And as I go down them, do people actually listen or pay attention to them or not? Drivers and folks walking the street. There is a question of saturation, certainly. and you get used to something, and does it actually then reverse what the intended consequence is? I don't know, by the way. I'm just suggesting this as a consideration, because I would advocate safety first in all instances. But I think you have the feedback there, Director. Unless there's any other comments, we can move forward.
No, thank you. I have, we'll circle back with Chief Eve when we put together some motor vehicle reports and incident reports just last year, so we can pull that before the March meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I know they're a little different, but I know that the school district put some up on Carter Road. And you know, they blink a little different than these ones would blink. But they are there because they wanted them there and the school district put them up. They didn't have the city do it.
Okay, thank you. And we don't know how effective or ineffective they are.
Right, and they've been there for a while.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Director Venuti. The next is around Loomis Woods, which I think a lot of you have been waiting for, so appreciate your patience through this meeting. I put this on the agenda as we had our last session a public hearing with regard to this, where we heard a lot of feedback from city residents, town residents, and interested parties alike as it relates to this. This is a new subject, a new topic for some of us. We have since been able to at least digest some additional information. But what I want to do here is a discussion for this council, and I want to frame this in a way that it aims towards an action or it frames towards an inaction. And it's up to this body to determine that, but this is to set that tone. I don't think it's here, and I'm going to really focus this in on what we know and what we don't know, and in terms of whether or not an action would be desired or recommended. We will not be voting tonight on whether or not to deem Loomis Woods as, at least to continue the discussion investigation for, as a housing site. What we will be doing is getting a sense as to where we are, and then to determine whether or not an action will take, because there are really three things we can do. One is we can do nothing and decide to leave it as it is and not move forward. We can decide, or someone can decide, to seek a resolution to, in effect, authorize for there to be housing on the Loomis Woods site. Or three, there can be a decision to move forward in terms of analyses or some other side action that either moves in the direction or an understanding of that. I think those are really our only three options, unless any of the counselors here would suggest anything differently. But certainly appreciate the passion around it. So I thought I'd start with what I heard, what I saw, and what I've researched, and recognize and acknowledge a few things. One is, and I'm going to start with what I understand about this. And one of the things I wasn't certain about was there was a resolution in March of 2021 as it related to Loomis Woods, where the council voted to pass a resolution not allowing for housing on the Loomis Woods site. From what I understand, that resolution, while passed at the time, we can pass a different resolution. So it doesn't mean we can't do or move in a different direction. So I wanted to first make that clear, unless anyone challenges that, but that's the research I have thus far. The other thing with regard to Loomis Woods, and this is what makes it incredibly complicated, as was very well outlined by the public and others on the dais here, that Loomis Woods was in fact deeded to the city around 1909. It was deeded expressly for park and playground purposes, and is intended to serve as a public park in perpetuity, and was memorial in nature. The parkland, or the property, and because of the city and our behavior and our actions toward it, we have treated it as a parkland, including designations. We also have incorporated it, although not as definitively, certainly as other parks, and that is for certain, but it has been a part of the discussion. And as a result, at least based upon what I've researched, it's deemed city-owned parkland, and it's subject to the public trust doctrine, which would trigger parkland alienation requirements for non-park use. So what does this mean? Well, this means that to do anything in Loomis Woods would be difficult, right? And I'm probably understating that for a lot of you, but I will be a man of understatement right now. And that to proceed in any way to allow for housing development on this site would really need to achieve a formal determination that it is in effect held in a public trust, but can be, with state legislative approval, authorizing alienation or change of use through a home rule request to change as such, and that there may be some compliance conditions as imposed by the legislature. There are some potential judicial proceedings, and I'm saying that very lightly, that some folks might not like it and want to sue. There may be litigation from a range of areas as it relates to it. Having said that, on the other side, we have a housing crisis here in Geneva, as we do everywhere. We have a interest in terms of utilizing space and building housing to expand our housing supply to address some of these needs. We've had a couple of successes and failures, I would suggest, this past year. This asset is oddly encumbered, right? As I've learned through access points. Like, you have to cross other people's property to get at this. In some instances, there's no parking. As has been suggested, it's a Fourth Ward walkable park, and I recognize that for certain. But it's oddly different from the other parks that the entrance points, exit points aren't necessarily city-owned or city-controlled or city-operated, and certainly not city-maintained. I think that's a fair statement, right? The potential for a fiscal impact, I will not diminish that. It presents an opportunity for the city to realize a financial impact, not only from the sale of it, but the ongoing taxable assessment that the city needs, all evidence to everything being stated earlier, and can certainly lead to potential expansion of our housing supply in Geneva and improve it. So I wanted to start with that as a recognition as to what I heard, and as a recognition of what I've analyzed personally here. And I think the purpose of this now is for a discussion in terms of what next steps each of the councilors here are thinking or would like to proceed with or not proceed with, and have just a very frank discussion, keep it very focused, and let's see if we can, over the next 5 or 6 minutes or so, come at least with some sort of approach. That makes sense, Councilor Petropoulos?
Well, for one thing, I'm against selling the property. I live on the other end of town from Loomis Woods, but every city needs that little quasi-wilderness area. As far as access, the city could probably, with a little communication, work out a right of way. The other big reason I'm against it is because I have not yet seen a plan. What is going to go there? Is there going to be a bunch of trailers? Is there going to be a big McMansion like they got in Queens and now? I don't want, what's the return going to be as far as that goes? There are other places we could put housing. We know that. We don't want to do that haphazardly. My thought is, all right, let's keep it as a park and have the Parks Collective come up with a plan to make it, I guess, more user-friendly, less like the jungle and more like a friendly wilderness. But bottom line is, I'd like to keep it the way it is. And park alienation is a big, PIA.
Thank you. Councilor Petropoulos. Councilor Gelati.
Getting a lot of people from Ward 4, they're totally against it. And some that just outside my ward are totally against it. In all fairness, I think we need more information for you. I'm only one vote, so in all fairness, be open-minded as possible, even though my constituents don't want this at all. I think we need to look at more detail, what's going to cost, what's feasible. But I was talking earlier to the mayor and a couple of councilmen. I think we also need to think about, if we're going to talk about affordable housing, which I assume is houses and not apartments, affordable housing, we also have to talk about infrastructure. I think we need to talk about those things hand in hand, because it seems to me we can build houses. Can we endure the stress, excuse me, on the sewer system, water system, on the electrical systems that we have now? I mean, apparently we're getting really low on power, let alone how many breaks on Franklin Street or down, Middle Street, whatever, over the holiday, it was cold weather. Can the infrastructure handle the stress of more housing without fixing that? So I'd like to see us look, when we talk about housing, also talk about infrastructure and the impacts there and how we can do both in a tandem or in concert. As far as this property goes, I think we need to really talk about this, get some more information and see what's feasible, what's not feasible, the impact it would have on taxes, tax rate, as opposed to not doing anything with it. And just all of us try to keep an open mind and then present to the public again and see where it goes.
Councilor Brennan?
We've been talking about Loomis Woods now for a couple of months, and it's usually on moral or emotional grounds. So I also am in favor of knowing more particulars. I've heard nothing about any particulars. Who is the developer? Who or what is the developer? How are they going to achieve their development? What resources do they have to work with? What happens if they fail, like Lake's Edge project, otherwise known as the American Legion project? What happens if they get halfway through? We don't have anything, to the best of my knowledge. We don't have any information like that whatsoever. So we're really discussing a very large subject in a vacuum. So I would recommend that we table this conversation until such time when there is a real plan of a real developer on record. Thank you.
Councilor Gummo?
I agree mostly with everything that the other counselors have said, but I don't know what would change that we would learn additionally about this. If thinking about this separate from the other arguments that have already been made that I agree with, from just like a very pragmatic perspective, if I was to have a grid of housing development that is easy to develop and quickly develop, and housing development that is very difficult and long running to develop, I think this would be sorely in the least pragmatic option. We have alienation considerations. We maybe have to replace that parkland with something else. Who knows where that's coming from? There is a zoning change. Then there's all the other details about finding a developer who will actually build in that area. I think that this is frankly just a waste of time to focus on. I think there are far more pragmatic options where we can develop housing.
Thank you. Councilor Lavin?
Sure. The people keep wanting to make this a development proposal. This is a proposal to buy the land. Whether he decides to put in a basketball court, a skating rink, or whatever else, he has to deal with planning and zoning like that. There is no proposal for development here. This is a city asset that's been ignored for 20 years, and an occasional stroll through for a piece of land that's inaccessible, poorly maintained. I lived there for 10 years in my work and watched that get worse and worse. And it's just a city asset wasting its time again. But if the public wanted to come forward and say, we're going to make it into a great park for the neighborhood and it could be the heart of what's going on here, great. But we have 10 pocket parks in this town, and when the committee that is here tonight that wanted to start looking at the parks brought it up, they didn't even have Loomis Woods on their list. So it's everything right now comes back to me as $1 million can make up for the spending spree you guys approved in December, and the commitment to bond that we made in December alone. It's a fiscal thing to me. At some point we're going to have to stop shooing out of town people who want to help us with our housing, build things up because of the height of the building or the shape of the thing. Heck, I would have torn down half the houses around the Finger Lakes Times to put a project in there that would be an asset for the community. Most of those houses are owned by slumlords down there, and nobody wants to say that thing locally. And honestly, so I think we listen to a few properly upset locals who would like us to solve their drainage problem and fix their road and stay the heck out of the way so their life goes on like it was before. But we increasingly are facing dire financial things that we're not owning up to. So if somebody else wants to give $1 million for it, fine. It's a city asset that has been unused in its proper way for more than 40 or 50 years. And the locals will tell you that when they, off the record. But I have no, I'm not sitting there, it's not a proposal to put up buildings or housing at all. He says, I'll give you $1 million for it, do you want it? He's got 27 acres down the road that he'll make as part of the
Before
exchange.
Council Abbott, I'm not sure how much of this is public or known. I think that's the point I'd just like to make.
His proposal is to purchase the land.
No, I'm sorry, that we can discuss
Why?
publicly. I don't know,
No.
So just for purposes of process, this discussion is not on a particular proposal to sell the property. The city
Right.
cannot look at selling this property at this time. What we are looking at is whether we want to invest the staff time and resources in beginning the process to be able to think about changing the use of this property.
But the alienation in this proposal that started this conversation is answered by 26 acres adjacent to the school district's properties down the road. We can call it complex because we don't want to do the work, but it's $1 million. Anybody else got $1 million idea right now to get us starting out of the woods?
but yes, so Council Abbott, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I want everyone to hear, not only do I not disagree with Councilor Lavin is saying, that the thing about this and what we have is this decision, it's almost forgive me for saying this, but a fool's errand to have this conversation at this point because we don't know what it means. We don't know where it's going. And as a result, the speculation we're engaging in is nothing other than having an unknown on top of another unknown to come to another unknown, yet still have an opinion as to how it should move. And it's very difficult for everyone, including the public, and especially those in that neighborhood. And it upsets me that there's a lot of emotion as it relates to this because of where we are and what we're doing at this point in time. And it's not that I am opposed, and I will be clear on this. If a development came and a developer walked in and said, here's what I do with Loomis Woods, that does a certain number of things that are for the benefit of the community, help Geneva, help us in all these scenarios, I'll be the first one to sit there and listen to it and to consider it, right? I think that this decision, in terms of, or at least potential decision, in terms of whether or not to even look at something, again, without having something to sink into, is really hard.
Let's put out an RFP.
So, to your point, Councilor Lavin, what I would suggest, if there is a formal proposal and it's one that wants to be discussed and decided upon, we can do that, right?
Right.
That would be one of the next steps. I'm not so sure I'd want to go, well, no, I'm not going to go that far. I'm open to any ideas, for sure. But I think at this point, unless someone has the intention or desire to put forth, to sponsor and co-sponsor a resolution to allow for the sale or the sale of Loomis Woods, which would probably then result in an RFP, Councilor Lavin. I think it would, or would something similar to that, would allow for then the discussion therein.
Mayor, if I just might, I think, reiterate a point that's already been made, but just for emphasis here. The only thing that this council is being asked to do is to consider whether or not this property, which has been designated by the prior council and has been given to the city as parkland, whether or not this council believes there's a different use for this property that deserves to be considered. That's the only thing that's before you. It's really independent of whether or not there's an existing proposal or not. It could be that you change it from parkland to some other public purpose that's not parkland. That's also possible too as well. You could decide to build a building for DPW on it, for example. That really is irrelevant. So yes, there may be other things that are out there, but the property has not been listed for sale, and it cannot be until anybody can submit any unsolicited offers for the property. But the only issue for you today, or even for the near future, really is there a use for this property that's other than parkland that you are willing to consider? And if the answer to that is yes, then staff will be charged to pursue that through an alienation process that's already been discussed. So really, just to be frank, discussion of what could be developed there is really fairly premature to that. I mean, there are many things that could be done with that, but you're not really at that point yet. You're really just talking about, is this or is this not parkland that you want to preserve.
Well, that's a slightly different position in terms of whether or not it's parkland you want to preserve or whether or not you want to entertain housing. Those are two very different things.
Right, but you
David.
can't talk about one without the other. First, you have to
Agreed.
decide.
But you also can't talk about housing without understanding what could potentially go there either, which I think is what the engaged conversation
That's
is.
true. That's
So
true. But that's also very
that's all,
speculative. That's
right?
true.
So
yes.
the connection's there. So for the purposes of this, and to round this out, is there any action at this point that any counselor would like to proceed with as it relates to what it is we're discussing from the public hearing today? There's nothing on the table other than this is a discussion to determine whether you want to put something on the table. How's that for government speak? So if there's nothing, there's nothing. We don't need to work around how to do nothing. And that's okay.
We're
Governments
good at
love
that.
doing that, right? But for us, I think it holds true. And I'm going to say something also to the folks who are very much in favor of preserving Loomis Woods. This was deeded to the city without any money to preserve it. None, right? There was an effort for another, as my research showed, to deed some more land and some dollars that could be used to help sustain it. No city dollars are used today, as far as I'm aware, for Loomis Woods, right?
No.
It's all being taken care of by the good
Nobody.
people.
It is mostly being taken care of by people. We have done one or two, assisted on projects such as replacing the bridge. Our buildings and ground staff did several years ago, but that's really the only one on
Yep.
record. And then we've cleared the path a couple times when requested.
Therefore, my suggestion or thought is, as this is being discussed, what is the future of Loomis Woods? And what I love is that we've got some people who are willing to take it on and to try to create something even more for it. So what is that? I would suggest to you, go forth and create a plan, create an approach, something that helps us also understand why it should be preserved, right? That would be my request. So with that, unless there's any other discussion,
I would just say that we should not allow it to sit abused as it has been for the last 20 years.
I
And
agree.
we can't rewrite that history with an occasional pumpkin toss. So,
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Councilor Brennan.
Just one more, what I think to be, back to the moral question, a very important point. Mrs. Cosentino made the comment that because this was donated to the city of Geneva, if we were to reverse that or somehow corrupt that, there would be virtually no reason for anybody to ever donate anything to the city again. It would be a violation, really, of an honor.
certainly one of the risks,
Thank you.
Counselor.
other than
Okay.
the 30-year violation of not doing anything with the donation.
So let's at this point, unless there's anything meaningfully different, shall we move on in the name of time? All right, so let's go to the sidewalk ordinance and Counselor Petropoulos.
Right, I'll try to be quick because it's getting late. So, back in October, I got wind that there was a gazillion code violations, mostly on Maxwell Street and in that area of Ward 4. And I was getting phone calls. I don't know why, but I thought, all right, we got to put a stop to this because the letter, word for word, specified in 60 days you got to have this something done or the city's going to come in. A little heavy-handed, and then Mayor Valentino and I decided, all right, let's do it through April. A, good luck finding a contractor in 60 days, much less getting it done. B, the weather's going to get cold. C, cement's, out the roof. Let's see if we can come up with something better. So the moratorium ends in April. What I received from city management is a list. Really, it's not a very big list, you'd think, but a list of all the violations for sidewalks from about 2015 to the present. And fully half of that list is the Maxwell Street, and the moratorium was sent. A couple on Maple Street and elsewhere, but what can we do? What are the options? Well, the one option we can't do, because it's just not there, the city can't pay for it. As Councilor Brennan pointed out at the earlier meeting, we got 80-odd miles of sidewalk. However, there are two options which are potentially doable. One of those Councilor Gelati suggested, I consulted with him, and that is basically find at a good price an outside contractor. Such used to exist here. I believe the gentleman's name was Mahoney, and he passed away last year, and, you know, he would do that sort of thing. The other option, and I talked with the city manager and Councilor Kame about this, we don't want to rush anything because I'll get to that. The other option would basically be something the mayor and I talked about, which may actually come to fruition, and that is a slush fund of sort. We're not going to call it a sidewalk fund. It was suggested code assistance fund, and the LDC is thinking big. Like, how much would it cost to fix every sidewalk in town big? That's what the chair of the LDC says. So let's get that information and figure it out. The one thing that's mandatory, though, is that we don't want anyone just taking advantage of this, because you're going to get people, hey, I don't want to do it. I'll just use somebody else's money even though I can afford it, as opposed to, you know, you bought that big house and now you really can't afford it. What can we do? What did people do in the past? How can we do this in the future? So the plan, again, pending all the discussion, the plan is to look into what the LDC can do. And based on my conversation with the city manager and Councilor Kame, there are criterion for who can get that money and who can afford to do it themselves. In the end, it's not anywhere near as extensive as I thought, but yes, there are things in the sidewalk. We don't want anyone hurting themselves. We also don't want anyone, pretending to hurt themselves. I've seen all this in New York City. I don't want to see it up here. So that's where we're at right now. There's no resolution coming down the pike. All right, we're going to hold off on that until we have more information, until we get more public feedback. And again, anyone can complain about your neighbor's sidewalk because you don't like your neighbor. But let's see what really needs to be done, what the best way to do it is, and where we can find some assistance from the LDC. And like I said, more on that as it comes up. Comments?
So, Counselor, does that mean that the moratorium's likely going to expire?
Yes, the moratorium will expire. We gave everyone a breather. Basically, I think a better letter would, and again, this too could be taken advantage of, but instead of you got 60 days to fix it, how about you got 30 days to come up with a plan? And then, depending on who the contractor is, cement costs a lot of money, I get it, but my thought is to let the moratorium pass. The public's had all winter to think about it, and shoveling snow suddenly come up. That's a whole different issue, but homeowners are always responsible for their sidewalks. Technically, they're liable, so you should want to keep your sidewalk in good shape. It's the other caveat is if any city money went into it, the city could be liable, but my thought is any potential resolution would exonerate the city from, being liable. It would still fall upon the homeowner.
Good luck.
So, yes, for the time being, we're not going to rush a resolution. We'll let the moratorium pass, hear from the public, it's not as rushed as it was in October, and it's not as, it's not the you-know-what moment everybody thought it was. So my thought is let it pass, and we'll continue conversation with the LDC. I think that's the best way, and see if there's a contractor out there that would give us a really good deal on it. That's something we could consider too. Maybe the LDC could fund said contractor. Best of both worlds.
Counselor Kane?
I just want to say that Councilor Petropoulos has been working hard on this for a long time. He gave us a lot. The moratorium is going to come up in April, so if anybody got a letter, they need to make sure that they start getting things ready to work on it, and it's not going to get cheaper the longer you wait. So you might as well get it. I've seen some forms have already been up in some of the places, but it's, the moratorium is going to be done in April.
Would there possibly be a follow-up letter to those who've received a letter letting them know?
We can certainly do that, absolutely.
That's again presuming, I'm not going to, sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of this. Does any other counselor have a view on this, a differing view?
I have to
Counselor Brennan?
ask, how did this come up last year that it became such a crisis. Has anybody talked to code enforcement about this?
Yes.
We provided a memo last year, yes.
And what did you do with that memo? What did-
Provided it to council.
No, I'm asking, why was this a crisis last year
Verbiage of the
where we
letter.
had so many
Verbiage-
people?
Verbiage of the letters.
The verbiage of the letter. So it's not the content of the ordinance, or it is partly the content or the ordinance?
There's nothing that I saw in the ordinance that's, we've been doing it that way all this time.
That's what I mean, right.
However, what might come up is, okay, well, some folks may need assistance getting their side, because it is expensive.
It is expensive.
And
yeah.
however many panels in front of your house, some person may have 1 or 2, others may have 6, and that's, I'll share that with council, what city management
I just
said.
want to clarify too, the letter language was the ordinance language. When citing the violation, it was what
So
the
has-
violation of the ordinance was.
Because I thought the moratorium was also designed to kind of review the entire program and policy.
Which is, that's what the memo gave you a couple of different options.
Yeah, I
and-
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
but it was
So I
never actually talked about by anybody.
I presented on it. I gave a briefing.
You
yes.
gave a briefing, but it wasn't a conversation, meaning to say, we got a memo, I have it. But it's like, things like the use of blacktop in some areas of possibility instead of concrete. Where, just how about not having sidewalks in some places, which is, possible in some parts. I mean, they dead end on some streets and go nowhere. And on some streets, there's no sidewalks at all. And what's it really all about? That's what I was thinking about. That's what I was thinking this whole conversation was about. That's why we put it on moratorium, I know, because winter was coming, and it was a kind of a crisis. You're writing me a note now. No, I'm not gonna wash your car.
So,
I'm
to-
sorry,
If I may,
Yeah.
Councilor Brennan, I appreciate that. I think, Councilor Petropoulos, Councilor Kame, the work you've been doing is assessing the memo that was presented by the staff and whether or not there were other options we may want to consider in terms of either replacing, augmenting, adjusting, or leaving alone our current ordinance and our current process. And the result and the findings you brought today is, look, we want to keep it as is. That's what you're recommending. And you're stating that the LDC is potentially in a position to create a program to help those who are in need through some sort of criterion set approach, come up with ways to help them fund their sidewalk replacement. That's what I heard, right? So sorry, Councilor Kame, correct me where I'm wrong.
Just because I've been in a lot of these discussions, nothing's been come about yet. We've talked with code enforcement, we talked where the needs are, and it isn't strictly about what we're gonna approach the LDC with isn't just about sidewalks. It's all code violations.
Okay.
Because in certain situations, so it's not the sidewalk thing.
So rather than solve all things, being very precise here to the sidewalks, that's the sense or the idea. And this council, and Councilor Brennan, you're certainly more than willing and able, if we want to explore other options to take it to a different point in time, we can do that. But I think at this point, where we are is what the analysis is and what you're recommending at this point is where we're looking to take this. Councilor Gummo.
I have what's probably a frustratingly naive question. Just like, I have a frustratingly naive question. Just like, how do other cities do this? Every city has sidewalks. There's
not
plenty of
naive.
cities that are our size. Like, what is the most common model for sidewalk maintenance? Is it an addendum on your tax assessment of frontage? Is it city doesn't do anything and it's
So-
just the property owner? Like,
Yeah,
what are
so
the
we
what are the
looked-
models out there?
We looked at those, that was the substance of the memo that
Oh.
I had provided to council. And really, the most common one is that homeowners are responsible for their sidewalk. I provided kind of the range from
Oh, okay.
homeowners being, responsible all the way through the city, including it in their, infrastructure projects, and the different cities that do that and how they kind of model that.
Could you send me a copy of that
Absolutely.
memo? Thank you. I wasn't on council then.
Okay, so then, right now, to round this out, unless there's any other action, there will be no action. The moratorium will expire. and the policy will continue as is. I would suggest, if it hasn't already been done so, that another letter be sent to them, letting them that, and maybe there's room for a kinder, gentler letter. And those of you who know what I'm referring to are as old as I am when I use those terms, but maybe a slightly different approach with the letter that goes out today. So having any other, or barring other comments, we'll move on in the interest of time. So we have consideration of meeting minutes, January the 4th, 2026, January the 14th. Oh, sorry, the lakefront benches.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this can be
Sorry,
very
Council.
quick.
Yep.
I was approached back in October by a family that wanted to dedicate a bench on the lakefront for their deceased father. I looked into it and found out that they were told by city people that all the spots were taken. So we walked down there with one member of the manager's team, and in fact, there's plenty of space all along the lakefront to add more, and there's a lot of people who want to do it. There's a waiting list. They were saying that they were taken based on an undetermined old council from some councils back, that when they started the benches were concerned about having too many. So that was the benchmark, no pun intended. And so we walked the lakefront with the family and with managers, staff, and this is simply a proposal to say there's room for more, but if we're gonna do it, it should be at the actual cost of putting the benches in, plus another 100% on top of it to create a fund to maintain the benches we have. They're getting older, they need to be repainted, the DPW is gonna have to do this work, or somebody, this Geneva Community Projects, when they sell their Adirondack chairs, it's a 10-year term, and after 10 years, you get the option of redoing it for your family. You don't have to pay the fund portion of it for the second 10 years, but it at least has a way, so when somebody breaks one of the Adirondack chairs, there's a fund to fix it. That's how Geneva Community Projects does. All we were suggesting is that let the city's staff go down there, determine. I came up with 14, but I'm no expert, and Joe and his people would probably say some of those sites are good, some of them aren't, but to come up with more benches, but at a cost that protects the city and puts into place a system for maintaining these things over time, because they need to get resurfaced after a while, and some of them actually need it already, but I don't know where that money will come from. It can come from this selling 10 more benches at $5,000 a piece, $2,500 for the cost of putting it in, and $2,500, and I'm making these numbers up. Joe would be able to determine that, but this is just meeting the demand of the public for a beautiful thing, and there's plenty of places down there to sit.
Any other discussion? All right, this isn't for action at this time. This is to introduce the idea, the notion.
I'll bring it up next month.
It'll be brought forth as a resolution in March, barring any changes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Councilor Lavin. All right, next is consideration of meeting minutes for January 4th, 2026, January 14th of 2026, which are all contained in your packet. I'd like to get a motion to, any discussion on these, first a motion to approve. Second, Councilor Petropoulos, Councilor Lavin, any discussion? Comments on the minutes?
Good job.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So carried. Unfinished business, we have one item, a resolution supporting the sale of surplus real estate at 32 Middle Street.
Yeah, so this is, again, this is for an approval to sell 32 Middle Street. The site has been identified as surplus property, not needed for municipal use. There was a public hearing held on January 7th. The staff, property acquisition and disposition team reviewed this request and received on September 5th and recommended that City Council accept the sale at a price of $1,000. The city would not retain ownership during this transfer, and we're looking at a 9-unit apartment building as a proposal for this site. And so this is again a resolution to authorize this for us to execute that sales agreement.
Do you have a motion?
Can I just have a little clarity on that first, though?
Sure.
Is that the blue house on the east side?
I'm gonna ask Adam to answer that.
It's just east. It's on the south side, just east of Wadsworth Street, correct?
I believe so.
Yes.
It's in bad condition.
No, I know.
It is the blue house.
I make a
Yes,
motion.
Yes.
Motion by Counselor Kane, seconded by Counselor Petropoulos. Any discussion? My only regret with this is that it's not for actually people to purchase a home. It's for people to continue to rent, of which we have a lot of rentals in this city. But aside from that, I commend the staff for the work they put in putting this together and negotiating through some various issues that were brought forward with it. So with that being said, the clerk call the roll.
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Counselor Kame?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Gameau?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi? Oh, he's absent. Sorry. Mayor Sitzry?
Aye.
Carried.
So carried. Okay, going into new business, we have one resolution, two. The one that was added is an amendment earlier. The first is approving the issuance by the City of Geneva Local Development Corporation of a $93 million revenue bond for Hobart William Smith Colleges for the new science building project.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you stated, this is an approval that's needed for Hobart and William Smith Colleges to use the Geneva Local Development Corporation as the issuer of tax-exempt bonds. In order for that to happen, the City of Geneva, or the City Council, who is deemed the chief elected official in order to achieve federal tax requirements, are required to approve this. There was a public hearing held Monday night, which there was no comments made, and then the LDC approved this earlier today at their meeting. There is no financial I don't know. There's nothing that the city or the LDC would be responsible for. This is all just utilizing the LDC as an issuer of tax-exempt bonds. The LDC would receive a fee, hasn't been determined yet, but it will be pretty substantial. Of the 93 million, 37 million of it is for new funds for the science building, as you mentioned. The remainder is a refinancing that the LDC helped them with in 2020.
Thank you, Controller Blowers. Any questions? I will say this, and I'll say it very quickly. This is a great example of the city actually having the mechanism and the structure in place so that Hobart William Smith not only can erect a new science building to enhance the campus on what is a pre-existing tax-exempt property. There is no new property being exempted as a result of this action. So I'd like to stress that, but it allows them to enhance their existing footprint. And the LDC in particular, and I'm hoping that fee was hoping that fee would have been negotiated by now. But the LDC would realize some sort of revenue as a result of that to help with things like the sidewalk project. So just to connect those dots and how important this issuance is for the city and the colleges, and it's a win-win.
The fee has been negotiated, it just depends on what the sale ends up at. So, but 90 to 93 million, the attorneys that we are working with expect it to be around $500,000 in revenue to the LDC.
And that would be over the course of time.
No, that would be just an upfront.
Upfront?
Yeah. Yep, just a check in the bank account for existing.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I make a motion to approve?
Boy, that'll be
Do
quick.
they want any
Motion
benches?
by Counselor Gelati, seconded by Counselor Petropoulos. Any discussion? Any further discussion? I think, Clerk, why don't you call the roll for this one, because I want to make sure.
Hurry up.
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Counselor Kame?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Gameau?
Aye.
Mayor Sitzry?
Aye.
Motion carried.
So carried. Okay, next in unfinished business is a resolution to set a public hearing for the sale of 38 Jackson Street on March 4th, 2026. What's the details of that?
I can take that. So as the mayor just mentioned, 38 Jackson Street is a property that the city acquired for tax foreclosure several years ago. and has since demolished the property due to its condition. It is across the street from where the old foundry was. As I mentioned, this has been a city-owned property for quite some time. It's been publicly marketed. We did receive an offer from the Greater Rochester Habitat for Humanity. They have made an offer of $5,000 to build a single-family home there, which is exciting news if everything goes through. All we're looking for tonight is to establish that public hearing for March 4th. What we would do if that's approved tonight is we would also have a resolution approving the sale that evening as well.
Okay.
So moved.
Do I have a motion? Counselor Lavin, a second. Counselor Gummo. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Make this-
Aye.
All those opposed?
Does she need,
That
a-
was curveballs.
does she need this
Take a roll.
person?
No, I
person?
don't think she needs a roll. Yep. Yeah, for this, it's,
Oh, it is.
I read my Roberts rules a couple times. I'm trying to get better at it. But this is just to expedite this. So the hearing will be set on March the 4th, as mentioned and outlined by the controller. Boards and commissions, appointments, we have one.
Yes, we do.
Counselor Gilat.
IDA wants to appoint Kyle, and I can't even try to say the last name.
Olszewski.
Olszewski? I so moved. I so move.
Is there a second? Second. I'm going to make one point on this. I think the appointment process and the interview process, my question is, did you or Counselor Gummo interview?
IDA interviews their own.
So they interview their own. So we
Yes.
didn't have a follow-up interview for
We don't
that.
normally do that, so.
And we don't have
I'll
any
change
rules
that.
around people serving on more than one board,
Not to my knowledge.
not to our knowledge, right?
Nor does it have anything to do with their political affiliation.
Right.
To my knowledge.
Right. My question here is, and I'm not going to vote no on this. I'm going to vote in the affirmative, so I'm going to forecast that. But I think the evolution we need to start looking at is what is the process unto which and by which we are appointing these individuals. And certainly some of the examples we've heard tonight, and also historically, I want to make sure have been heard. I've certainly heard it. And I believe we need to take a look at this. So my first request is for Councilors Gummo and Gelati to take a look at this and come up with some thoughts, initial thoughts and recommendations. Whether it be some new requirements, new restrictions, new approaches, I think it's time to start that process. Yes, sir.
Not that I don't agree, because I do agree, but the roadblock we continue to hit is nobody volunteers. And that's a problem. And the same people volunteer, and some committees need that person to at least function. But we can only interview people that apply. That's as far as we can go with it.
And by the way, and I can't put my fingers on it right now, but there is a political affiliation connection in the charter.
Yes,
So
for
that,
some of the
that would be one of the things that we would review.
No, we've
Thank you.
I was gonna say, we've discussed getting rid of delineations through the whole election process here too. And these committees that form for a couple of weeks a year and put people up for elections without any more knowledge or review than Mr. King rightfully is asking for, so.
Understood. Okay, so maybe for the next meeting, at least a couple recommendations to consider, if I may ask, right?
Yeah.
Or even an approach.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
get together. Discussion. Point of order. I don't know if I can vote with a comment or if it is just a straight vote. So
Straight
I want to
vote.
provide a comment now. I'm planning to abstain, but only because I feel like I haven't had enough time to familiarize myself with this process. And it is not, Kyle, a comment about you in any way. I just want to do my due diligence.
Okay. Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Counselor Kame?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Gummo?
Abstain.
Mayor Cicery?
Aye, so carried. Motion for adjournment. Counselor Gummo, seconded by Counselor Brennan. This meeting is therefore adjourned. Thank you.
send you. Did you get a thing from?
I got nothing. No.